Chapter 1698. It took a long time to speak, but everything happened in a very short time. Chu Yang's body and mind fell into a frenzied attack. He took advantage of the situation. Although he was able to protect his body, good things did not last long. Clang clang clang. Countless sword cries erupted from the world of swords. Soon after, there was a sudden change. Countless swords were all aimed at Chu Yang. It was as if a myriad of armies had surrounded an ambitious and ruthless person. The endless number of weapons was enough to suffocate one. When the 8 spectators saw this scene, they instantly felt as if there were countless swords hanging in the sky above their heads that were about to fall on them. They could even feel an extreme sharpness on their exposed skin, as if there were many small needles piercing their skin. The son of all beasts couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was too terrifying. You have to work hard. The Green Lotus Goddess was also incomparably nervous and anxious, but she didn't realize it at all. Such a scene caused Lu Yun, who was in shock, to be even more astonished. She thought to herself, could it be that the heavenly maiden is really related to this Chu Wudi? But after thinking about it, she shook her head. She had always been by the Green Lotus Goddess's side. If the Green Lotus Goddess and Chu Wudi were together, how could she not know? Then what is the reason? Lu Yun could not figure it out, nor could she figure it out. On the battlefield, Xiao Chuyu's sharp gaze descended onto Chu Yang as well, and he muttered in his heart, "This time, let's see how you deal with it. Will you be able to make my eyes light up again?" He had thought of all sorts of ways that Chu Yang could deal with his sword of all things technique, but he had never thought that Chu Yang would deal with it in such a way. It was truly unexpected. If Xiao Chuyu was like this, then what about Chu Yang? Chu Yang's lips were somewhat dry. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva. However, his saliva seemed to have turned into a divine sword. It bombarded his throat and issued a metallic sound. However, it seemed that his throat was an even bigger and sharper sword. Therefore, he wasn't injured in the slightest. Motherfucker, Xiao Chuyu's swordsmanship is truly abnormal. He can actually reach such a level. He was amazed, but he wasn't alarmed. He had expected such a scene. If he was a subject, and Xiao Chuyu was the emperor, then it would be the emperor who wanted to kill 10 generations of his subjects. Generally speaking, subjects did not have the power to resist the emperor, but Chu Yang was not an ordinary subject. Come on, Grandpa Chu, I'll bet big. If I win, I'll be rich. If I lose, I'll be dead. 18 years later, I'll be a clown again. Chu Yang roared in his heart. There was a trace of madness in his eyes, and even some excitement. He did not move, nor did he show any intention of resisting. Like a javelin, he firmly stuck in the center of the sword world. His feet seemed to have taken root, and he did not move at all. Shoo! 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 Countless flying swords flew over from all directions. They were completely saturated with attacks. They came from all directions, all angles, and there was no blind spot. They drowned out everything and flew toward Chu Yang. The scene was simply like an army of thousands of soldiers besieging the enemy's peerless god of war. Countless arrows shot out from all directions, filling the entire world in an instant and drowning the battlefield. Grotto Heaven! Along with Chu Yang's roar, the void around him hummed, and the Grotto Heaven appeared to protect him. The Grotto Heaven was like the sun, and he was the master of the sun in the Grotto Heaven. What? He actually planned to use the Grotto Heaven to resist? Whether it was Xiao Chuyu, the 5 elders of the Sword Pavilion, the son of all beasts, or the Green Lotus Goddess, they were all shocked. Some of them even bit their tongues. How is this possible? How can the Grotto Heaven resist such an attack? Is he crazy? He actually made such a choice? Chapter 1699. If Xiao Qiuyu's countless swords were arrows, then most of Chu Yang's heavenly abode was just a thatched hut. How could a thatched hut withstand the endless arrows? The person inside would be turned into a hedgehog. Therefore, there was only one possibility: Chu Yang's heavenly abode was strong enough, ridiculously strong. Other people's heavenly abodes were just thatched huts, but his heavenly abode was at least made of thick steel plates, like a small steel castle. Only then could it withstand the attack. However, in the world of gods, at Chu Yang's level, no one had ever had a heavenly abode as strong as his. It was impossible to have such a heavenly abode. Absorb! While Xiao Qiuyu was still in shock, Chu Yang roared. Before the flying swords could reach him, he took the initiative to use his heavenly abode to devour them. In an instant, like the birth of a prehistoric giant beast, tens of thousands of flying swords were swallowed into his heavenly abode, causing the flying swords to be disconnected. Then, like a new stream of water, they were replenished. Rumble! Chu Yang's body shook violently, as if all the flying swords that were swallowed into his heavenly abode had exploded. His body was torn apart, and blood spurted out like flying swords. In an instant, he was covered in blood, but when he sensed the situation in his heavenly abode, he laughed. Haha, good, come, absorb. Chu Yang had 11 heavenly abodes, and after swallowing tens of thousands of flying swords, the first heavenly abode suddenly expanded, but when it was guided to the second heavenly abode, all the flying swords in the first heavenly abode were immediately emptied. What? How is this possible? He actually withstood it? Could it be that his heavenly abode is so terrifying that no one has ever seen it before? The skinny old man was impatient, seeing this scene. He immediately cried out in shock, and the chubby old man was not slow at all. After the skinny old man, he also cried out in disbelief. The other 3 old men looked at this scene in a daze, staring blankly at Chu Yang, who once again absorbed the flying swords into his heavenly abode. Of course, those flying swords were based on the world of swords. In the real world, how could Xiao Qiuyu create so many flying swords? He had not reached that level yet. Just this alone was already shocking enough. Xiao Qiuyu was also in a daze. Chu Yang had once again exceeded his expectations, making him unable to believe it. Ha ha! Chu Yang laughed continuously. He was like a crazy gambler who had lost all his belongings. He used the last of his gambling capital to make a comeback and win a lot of money. He was like a minister who had successfully rebelled, proclaimed himself king, and finally succeeded in ascending to the throne. Pleasure, incomparable pleasure! He wantonly vented the pressure from before and enjoyed the joy of this moment. Xiao Qiuyu's sword Dao, the sword transformations of all things, was now his. Even his 11 heavenly abodes could continue to evolve the sword transformations of all things, just like the evolution of the thunder technique's general principles. In the blink of an eye, all the flying swords were swallowed up, and the entire world of swords was also swallowed up. Chu Yang once again appeared in the world. The crisis of the sword transformation was like a disaster that had passed and no longer existed. His body was also like rebuilding a home, quickly healing. In a short period of time, he once again recovered to his peak state. His aura did not decrease, but instead increased. In Xiao Qiuyu's opinion, Chu Yang had created another miracle. He was incomparably frustrated in his heart as he muttered to himself, "My sword, is my sword Dao so weak?" Ha ha! Chu Yang heard this and laughed loudly. "Brother Xiao, it's not your sword Dao is not strong enough, it's me who is stronger." He was confident and flamboyant. In this instant, he had a kind of supreme spirit as if he was the master of the world. "That's right, you are very strong." I already understood this, but I was still shocked. Xiao Qiuyu was like he had cut down an important enemy with his sword. Suddenly, his baleful aura was oppressive as he completely declared war against Chu Yang. "This is my strongest sword." Chapter 1700. As one with the sword, Xiao Qiuyu thrust his sword forward. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew. It was the chilling autumn wind, not the spring breeze. Although this place had been transformed into spring, it had now become autumn. The autumn wind rustled, and it was the autumn that would be executed after the autumn. Chu Yang was the criminal about to be executed, and Xiao Chuyu was the executioner responsible for cutting off the criminal's head. This was what Chu Yang felt in an instant. This strike was definitely not fast, as if a beginner of the sword had thrust his sword forward. However, he was in an even worse situation. He suddenly lost all of his cultivation and became an ordinary person. He had to face the sword-wielding Xiao Chuyu with his bare hands. The essence of the sword, damage. The martial path seemed to have disappeared. Everything seemed to have returned to the starting point, highlighting the most essential function of the sword. Not long ago, when Chu Yang received the sword that was tailor-made for him, he had also comprehended the essence of the sword. However, his understanding of the essence of the sword was still very shallow and could not be compared to Xiao Chuyu's. The same situation happened again. Chu Yang's sword cultivation was inferior to Xiao Chuyu's, and this was even more evident at this moment. Since I can't block it, I can only think of other methods? Chu Yang did not need to win. He only needed to block this strike. His sword did not need to be stronger than anyone, nor did it need to be weaker. It was fine as long as it was strong enough. He was born as a human, not to be compared with others. The sword in his hand did not need to be compared with anyone either. As for his sword, it was naturally the sword of contradiction. His sword Dao was naturally the Dao of contradiction, the Dao of Taiji. At this moment, he was incomparably clear, so clear that it made one's hair stand on end. The sword could kill, but at the same time it could intimidate and protect. With a sword in hand, villains would be afraid. They would dare to have evil thoughts, but would not dare to attack. The essence of the sword was not only to damage, but also to protect. Everything had two sides. The sword had a side that could harm, but also a side that could not harm. The back of the sword, no harm. In a clash of sword Dao, Chu Yang's feeling of being unarmed disappeared. His sword appeared in his hand and he thrust it forward. It was not aimed at Xiao Qiuyu's sword, nor was it aimed at Xiao Qiuyu. This stab of the sword made everyone present feel as if they were separated forever. It was as if one was in the world of the living, while the other was in the world of the dead. It was also as if day and night could never appear at the same time. Shua. Chu Yang and Xiao Chuyu brushed past each other. Then they both stopped. Suddenly, a circle appeared and wrapped around the two of them, forming the shape of a Taiji diagram. The two of them were like the yin fish and the yang fish, or the yin point and the yang point. They were like the Tao, making people lose their mind. At this moment, the world couldn't help but fall silent. Sigh. After a long sigh, Xiao Qiuyu said bitterly, "My strongest sword move is broken just like that?" What was even more shocking was that it was just as his elders had said. He really didn't die, and Chu Yang actually used such a method to preserve his life. In such a competition, preserving one's opponent's life was more difficult than preserving one's own life. This made Chu Yang even more shocking and extraordinary. Therefore, how could Xiao Qiuyu not feel bitter and frustrated? But soon, he pulled himself together. "Brother Chu, you've seen my sword. It's time for me to see yours. Why does everything have to become a sword? Brother Chu, please use your sword. Haven't I already used my sword?" Chu Yang looked at Xiao Qiuyu seriously. Chapter 1701. Because I like the sword. If you like it, you have the right to force others, to impose your will on others? Chu Yang's path of the sword was not complete, so how could he use his sword? He could only speak of his view of Xiao Chuyu's path of the sword. He continued, "If everything becomes the sword, everything is the sword, only the sword, do you think the sword will be happy? Would it feel that this kind of world is wonderful? Just like you, if everyone in the world becomes Xiao Chuyu, and Xiao Chuyu sees Xiao Chuyu every day, how would you feel?" Xiao Chuyu was stunned again. He viewed the sword as his closest comrade, as his family, but he seemed to have never thought about how his comrade and his family felt. He only cared about his own feelings. Maybe only Xiao Chuyu would be convinced by Chu Yang's careless words. I feel that my sword has reached the limit, and I can't improve any further. Xiao Chuyu attacked again. If it was another person, Chu Yang would snort, but he did not even feel that Xiao Chuyu was arrogant. A person who had immersed his entire life in the sword had the right to say such word. Have you heard of scarcity thinking? Chu Yang thought for a while before saying, there are usually some people in the world who can't bear to see others do well. They think that when others do well, they will take away all the good from them. Xiao Chuyu did not understand. There is also a kind of person in the world who can't bear to see others do well, but after seeing others do well, they feel that they can become better. This kind of person thinks that the opportunities in the world are limitless. Their way of thinking is usually called the rich way of thinking. You want to say that I am the kind of person who can't bear to see others do well? Xiao Chuyu could not agree with such an accusation. At least, he was not jealous of Chu Yang, nor could he bear to see Chu Yang do well. Chu Yang naturally did not mean this, and did not argue on this point. He said, Brother Xiao, have you heard of the e-sword art? The swordsman as the chess player, the chess as the sword, anticipating the enemy's every move? This kind of sword art. Xiao Chuyu was stunned again. Brother Xiao, have you ever heard of internal sword techniques and external sword techniques? Internal sword techniques focus on one sword, while external sword techniques allow one to control thousands of swords as dense as the stars. Brother Xiao, have you ever heard of the saying, between having a sword and not having a sword, having no move beats having a move? There is a limit to my life, and there is no limit to my knowledge. If there is a limit, then there is no limit. Life was limited, but knowledge was limitless. Using a limited life to pursue limitless knowledge was bound to fail. No matter what you do, you don't have to be absolute. You have to know when to stop. There will always be things that you can't reach, so why be so demanding? Chu Yang spoke again. Brother Xiao, the way of the sword is boundless. I don't agree with you when you say that your sword technique has reached its limit, but I definitely don't want you to use your limited life to pursue the infinite path of the sword. I only hope that your sword can be like you, and that you can try more things, such as getting married and having children, and other things. But, do you dare to try? Xiao Chuyu was stunned on the spot. This meant that his sword was inflexible and monotonous. His sword was even more dead. There was no change to it at all. It was as cold as an emotionless person, as stiff as a puppet. Not to mention how much power this kind of sword could have. When the sword was dead, it naturally reached its end. It naturally reached its limit. Phew! After being stunned for a long time, Xiao Chu let out a long breath. Brother Chu, can I take a look at your sword? Since his sword was dead, he would only know what to do when he saw a living sword. Chu Yang suddenly felt a huge pressure. He could talk, but it didn't mean that the sword in his hand was that good. What kind of sword art should he display? After the battle between Chu Yang and Xiao Chuyu, the trip to the realm of the gods was more or less over. Although there was still the chi of beginnings, who could be his opponent if he wanted to snatch it? Chapter 1702. Xiao Chuyu didn't disturb Chu Yang as he pondered. Everyone's sword was different. There weren't many people in this world that could be more shocking than Xiao Chuyu's sword. How could such a sword be displayed so easily? In particular, Xiao Chuyu clearly knew that Chu Yang's sword skills were still at the stage of accumulation. How could he clearly know what his sword looked like? He was forcing him, but no matter what, he wanted to see Chu Yang's sword. Because he knew that once Chu Yang left the gods' world, it would be extremely difficult to see Chu Yang again. Perhaps it would be many years before they could see each other again. How could he waste such a long period of time? No matter how immature Chu Yang's sword was, he had to see it. There had never been a person who could so easily break through his sword technique. Only Chu Yang was completely crushed in terms of comprehension and sword technique for the first time in his life. For such a person, Xiao Chuyu was sure that he would be able to comprehend a lot just by looking at his sword. Chu Yang did have a headache, but he soon smiled. He said that Xiao Chuyu's sword was already dead. Then wouldn't it be fine if he revived Xiao Chuyu's sword? Immediately, he sensed the situation of the 11 heavenly abodes in his body. He found that the 11 heavenly abodes were like a torrent, pushing Xiao Chuyu's all things sword transformation technique forward. The 11 heavenly abodes were like 11 sword worlds. However, to deduce Xiao Chuyu's sword transformation technique and even improve it further, it would definitely take a long time. Just like the lightning technique's general principles. This should be enough. I'll pass on what I see. Whether he can comprehend it or not is his problem. Chu Yang muttered in his heart, but in the end, he still felt that it was a little perfunctory. He even felt that he was a little unkind. After all, he stole the divine fruit that Xiao Chuyu painstakingly planted. He should at least give Xiao Chuyu 1 or 2 copper coins. Then I'll add my sword technique. That should be enough. 1. Suddenly, a wonderful idea popped up in Chu Yang's mind. 2-dimensional coordinates. The 11 grotto heavens were like horizontal lines in a 2-dimensional coordinate system. It was completely possible to add a vertical line. The vertical and horizontal lines of 2-dimensional coordinates were yin and yang, while the vertical and horizontal lines extended infinitely towards both sides, each containing yin and yang. That was how the sword Tao of contradiction was perfectly fused with the infinite sovereign's infinite Tao. In fact, he could even use the profound mysteries of the infinite sovereign to further develop them, turning 2-dimensional coordinates into 3-dimensional coordinates, 4-dimensional coordinates, or even multi-dimensional coordinate. Chu Yang had a great realization. He couldn't help but cry out in his heart. Fortunately, this humble one is honest enough. In the future, when you steal someone else's treasure, you have to leave behind a copper coin no matter what. Oh my God, I almost lost a huge treasure just because it was too troublesome. He couldn't help but reveal a smile on his face, and it was like a flower of the Grand Tao was blooming. It caused all 8 of them to be shocked, and they concluded in their hearts. He's definitely obtained extremely great comprehension. In such a short period of time, he gained enlightenment? And it's definitely an extraordinary comprehension. Monster, he's really a monster. This bastard, he's already a fucking bastard, and he's still a fucking bastard. I really can't accept this. Does he have to make me look worse? The last one was naturally the son of all beasts. At this moment, Xiao Chuyu's hands were trembling, and he was so excited that his face was flushed. He wanted to see Chu Yang's sword, and it would definitely be an extremely amazing sword. He's forcing people to do things that they can't do. Chapter 1703. I am a romantic and elegant man, so there are countless beauties around me. Each one is prettier than the last, each one is prettier than the last. Graceful flowers, charming flowers, enchanting flowers. All the flowers in the world belong to me. All the beauties in this world belong to me. Waha! Chu Yang laughed and said, Brother Xiao, watch carefully. This is my sword and my lowliness. As he spoke, he thrust out his sword. Immediately, everyone forgot about his incomparably ambitious goal of flirting with all the beauties in the world. That was because there was nothing wrong with that sword, not even a sword light. Horizontal sword, horizontal line, appear. Chu Yang continued to roar as if it was real. Damn, I am indeed amazing and different from the masses. I am as lonely as the snow. Ordinary people cannot see my sword technique. It is unique to heaven and earth and is regarded as a treasure. He then declared, Brother Xiao, you can see it because you have the ability. If you can't see it, I can't help you. Am I really that extraordinary? Madly smearing gold on his face and flattering himself, there was no one else who could do this. However, what was even more shameless was that Chu Yang's roar shook the sky, but the 5 elders of the Sword Pavilion still couldn't sense or see anything, let alone the Green Lotus Goddess and the Son of all beasts. Bastard Chu, is it appropriate for you to fart like this? The Son of all beasts glared. Fortunately, everyone knew that Chu Yang was blatantly fooling them. Otherwise, it would be too unbrotherly of him to fool his serious brother. After all, if he couldn't hold it in, he could choose not to fart. Shut the fuck up. Chu Yang roared again. It sounded like a threat. Shut the fuck up. Bastard, you're embarrassing yourself again. Can't you let others laugh? Look, your face is red and your neck is thick. It is a miracle for someone like you. You actually have a time when you feel ashamed. The Green Lotus Goddess couldn't help but nod her head when she heard this. She couldn't agree more. She had never seen anyone more shameless than Chu Yang. However, at this moment, Chu Yang was actually blushing because of shame. She looked at him in amazement, and even felt that she had grasped Chu Yang's weakness. She thought to herself, so, you're this kind of person. However, Xiao Chuyu lost her composure and even screamed. Her voice was as sharp as a eunuch's. Sword of all things, my sword of all things. For a person like Xiao Chuyu, there were very few things that could shock him. You really couldn't imagine the scene of him being shocked. In fact, not only was his voice filled with disbelief, it was also trembling. My sword can transform like this? He was so excited that he was trembling like a sieve. The 5 elders of Sword Pavilion were completely shocked. They had never seen Xiao Chuyu like this before. Xiao Chuyu lost his composure and was in disbelief. This was definitely the first time he had ever been struck by lightning. If that was the case, then Chu Yang's sword did exist. He wasn't messing around. It was just that they couldn't see it, but Xiao Chuyu saw it. The Son of all beasts couldn't accept it. He was speechless. He cursed in his heart. Damn it, I just caught King Bastard Chu as a joke, but it flew away before I could even wait for a moment. He really couldn't bear it. What King Bastard Chu said was actually true. King Bastard Chu's sword was actually loved by the heavens and treated as a treasure. He took it for himself and didn't let mortals see it. He. The Blue Lotus Goddess was also scared out of her wit. She couldn't even speak properly. Just now, she was secretly happy that she had grasped this guy's weakness. If he came to provoke her in the future, she would immediately teach him a lesson. Who would have thought that what this guy said was actually true? What this meant was simply unimaginable. Chapter 1704. Chu Yang's face was red because it was strenuous. He was about to use all his strength. He was met with great resistance when he wanted to use the sword technique he had imagined. It was as if he was holding a mountain instead of a sword. The entire world was so heavy that he could barely lift it. Was the Tao's obstruction not allowed by the world? He was not sure. Sword manipulation, line manipulation. Chu Yang forced himself to use the sword manipulation. Bang, bang, bang. His body immediately exploded. His flesh and bones were blown away. Blood splattered everywhere. His arm holding the sword was like a firecracker that exploded continuously. His entire arm was broken. He was instantly covered in blood. After using the sword manipulation, he could not withstand it at all. He fell to the ground with a bang. Until now, no one had seen Chu Yang's sword. No strange phenomenon was born in the void. Ha ha! In Chu Yang's laughter, the 5 elders of the Sword Pavilion, the Son of all beasts, and the Green Lotus Goddess no longer doubted Chu Yang's words. Xiao Chuyu stood there in a daze. His eyes were wide open without blinking, and he maintained this state without moving at all. He had finally comprehended the Tao. No matter how loud Chu Yang's laughter was, it could not wake him up. It could be seen how much he had been touched and how deep his comprehension was. Waha, I'm really strong. Absolutely strong. That's why all the girls in the world are mine. It's very reasonable. Chu Yang was, of course, happy. This meant that he had created another technique of his own after the Tai Chi art. In other words, his Tai Chi art had undergone a huge change and improvement. However, he was also in a miserable state. His injuries were too severe. As a result, he only ran rampant for a while before he had to sit down cross-legged to regulate his breathing and heal his terrifying wound. Without Chu Yang's voice, the world was silent. Just like that, no one knew how long had passed. None of the 8 people present left. They were all waiting quietly. The next day, Chu Yang woke up. At the same time, Xiao Chuyu also woke up from his deep state of enlightenment. Both of their auras were incomparably restrained, like swords returning to their scabbards. There were no anomalies, which disappointed the son of all beasts. "Thank you, Brother Chu." Xiao Chuyu cupped his fists solemnly. After seeing Chu Yang's sword, he was unable to sort out his comprehension for a moment. Even now, his heart was still shaken. "So, Brother Xiao, you owe me a huge favor?" Chu Yang took advantage of the situation and made Xiao Chuyu owe him a huge favor. This was definitely the most profitable business in the world. Xiao Chuyu nodded, then suddenly smiled brilliantly, scaring Chu Yang, causing goosebumps to appear all over his body. His cold, indifferent, and half-smiling expression had now turned into an incomparably brilliant smile. What was going on? Chu Yang felt that something was wrong. Without waiting for Xiao Chuyu to speak, he immediately pounced towards the Green Lotus Goddess. "My future wife, let us go 100 times. Brother Xiao, I won't see you again." The son of all beasts was also incomparably shocked by Xiao Chu유's change. He stared until his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. However, Chu Yang's roar seemed to be even more attractive, because Chu Yang was too unrestrained. He directly expressed his love. He was simply a role model for my generation. No matter what, he had to learn. No matter what, he couldn't be left behind so much. In this aspect, he would feel inferior. Immediately, he pounced towards Lu Yun and shouted, "My future wife, let us also go 100 times. We can't let others beat us." The Green Lotus Goddess was dumbfounded. Although she knew that guy was the same as her and had strange feelings for her, wasn't such impudence a bit too much? In broad daylight, he actually dared to say such shameful things in front of others. What kind of person did he think she was? If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely teach Chu Yang a lesson. However, the Green Lotus Goddess's face was so red that it seemed to be burning. It was as if there were red flames dancing on her face. She couldn't wait to find a crack on the ground and crawl into it. Chapter 1705. Lu Yun was so shocked that her mouth was wide open. She was doubting her own life. How could there be such a person in this world? However, the son of all beasts was the same. She was about to explode in anger and fight to the death with the son of all beasts, but then she realized that the Green Lotus Goddess had escaped. That shameless bastard must be very strong. Even the Holy Maiden is not his match, so she had to hide. Lu Yun quickly thought it through. If the Green Lotus Goddess fought with Chu Yang, she would be at a disadvantage. She immediately thought that the Green Lotus Goddess's choice was very wise. She immediately gave up on the idea of fighting to the death with the son of all beasts. She did not want to suffer such a big loss. Maybe she would be the one that bastard was waiting for. Just you wait. Lu Yun bitterly clenched her teeth and also flew away. The scene was a little funny. Chu Yang chased after the Green Lotus Goddess, while the son of all beasts chased after Lu Yun. "Brother Chu, do you need me to announce your identity in the heavenly soul realm?" Chu Yang had already fled far away, but when he heard Xiao Chuyu's voice, his heart skipped a beat. He knows. What do you want? He had no choice but to turn back. The son of all beasts also felt that it was about time and gave up on chasing Lu Yun. Chu Yang walked in front of Xiao Chuyu and rolled up his sleeves. His eyes were as big as a cow's, and he looked like he was about to go berserk. The invincible disciple of Sword Pavilion, Xiao Chuyu said with a smile. The 5-sword firmament pavilion's old men couldn't help but laugh like a bunch of dog-tailed flowers. Chu Yang's eyes opened even wider. You want me to join Sword Pavilion? What do you think? Xiao Chuyu laughed even more happily. Just like what Chu Yang said, there were many possibilities in life. There were many things that could be done other than the sword. If it was in the past, he would definitely disdain to blackmail others. The only one who was qualified to be blackmailed by him was Chu Yang. Xiao Qiuyu continued, You and I will fight. If I die, no matter what the result is, it has already been decided. Because between you and me, one of us must become the successor of Sword Pavilion. This is the best result. I am the successor of Sword Pavilion, and you are the guardian of Sword Pavilion. If Sword Pavilion is not in danger, you don't have to appear. Therefore, it is fine even if you are in heavenly spirit world. His reasoning was clear, and his considerations were comprehensive. Chu Yang finally understood why the 3 old men of the Sword Firmament Pavilion had spent so much effort to tailor a sword for him. There really was no free lunch in this world. That's not important. I'm not in a good mood right now. Do you have any other ideas? Xiao Qiuyu was even more amused. So this was how it was so interesting. Motherfucker, I'll beat you to death. Chu Yang didn't want to know how Xiao Qiuyu knew about his background. He suddenly attacked and punched Xiao Qiuyu's eyes, causing 2 panda eyes. Then, he gave Xiao Qiuyu a violent beating. Xiao Qiuyu couldn't fight back at all. Chu Yang's shameless sneak attack made him lose the initiative. In addition, Chu Yang's body was too abnormal. Xiao Qiuyu was really beaten up by Chu Yang. I'll bestow upon you the fist of pain. Chu Yang still wasn't satisfied. He shouted, Plaything, are you still Xiao Qiuyu? Ha ha. Xiao Qiuyu laughed. It was the first time in his life that he cursed. Isn't this because you taught me well, you bastard? I'm trying out a new life, a new sword. Teaching the disciple, starving the master to death. He was the one who tricked himself. Chu Yang felt his teeth ache even more. He left in a huff. Ha ha. Xiao Qiuyu laughed even more heartily. He didn't care about the stunned gaze of the son of all beasts. If that sword was stabbed at you, would you have been able to block it? The fatty suddenly asked Xiao Qiuyu. Xiao Qiuyu stopped laughing. He thought for a moment and said with incomparable certainty, No, I would have died without a doubt. After saying that, he laughed again. That's why I said he's the invincible son of our Sword Firmament Pavilion. Chapter 1706. The sound of breaking through the air was like a giant beast running wildly, rumbling in the world. In just an instant, a group of people arrived at this warm place. There were many people, and every one of them had an astonishing aura. The Son of Absolute Beginning, the Son of Destiny, the Son of Light, the Son of Underworld, the 5 Poison Lord, Huo Wushuang, Feng Xinglei, and even the little moon goddess were among the crowd. It was as if all the geniuses of the starting ground had gathered here. Beside each of them, there were more or less a few elders or servants. Their realms were all at the upper limit of the starting ground, the mid-god realm. These people were usually called the sealers or guardians in the starting ground. The 5 elders of the Sword Pavilion were like this. These people were the protectors of the geniuses, especially those who didn't have the death substitute talisman. For example, the Son of Light and the others. The sealers beside him had extremely astonishing auras. If their realms weren't sealed, they would probably be at the Saint God realm, equivalent to the saints of the Heavenly Soul realm. A group of geniuses were rushing over with the intention of denouncing Lin Fan. In the distance, there were even more people rushing over with the fastest speed possible. Brother Xiao, I don't have the qualifications to watch this battle, but I have the qualifications to know the result, right? The Son of Absolute Beginning was usually gentle and elegant, but at this moment, his tone was a little harsh and a little harsh. If it was someone else, Xiao Chuyu would be too lazy to answer. At most, he would just give the other party the back of his head. But the Son of Absolute Beginning couldn't. After all, the Son of Absolute Beginning was the landlord here. He gave the sword pavilion face, so he couldn't not give the other party any face. Don't you have eyes? Xiao Chuyu had already returned to his original appearance, cold and indifferent, with a smile that was not a smile. Even though he was beaten black and blue, he still looked very cold and distant. The Son of Absolute Beginning narrowed his eyes slightly. He could clearly sense that there was a clear smell of blood here, and even found broken bones and flesh, but none of them were Xiao Chuyu's. However, when he wanted to perceive the scene of the battle, he only felt the remnant sword aura incomparably sharp. The changes caused by the battle had been completely restored, or had been completely erased, without a trace. She actually has such qualifications. The Son of the Absolute Beginning felt the aura of the Green Lotus Goddess. He was a little surprised, but he couldn't feel anything else. Who won and who lost? It was impossible to make a judgment based on this. In that case, Brother Xiao has won. The Son of the Absolute Beginning's tone had softened. Although he was the host, the other party was from the Sword Pavilion, so he didn't dare to go too far. In particular, Xiao Chuyu also made him incomparably fearful. Although they were both at incipient God realm, he felt that Xiao Chuyu wasn't weaker than him. Xiao Chuyu was too lazy to look at the Son of Absolute Beginning. You're not on the same level as me. All of a sudden, the Son of Absolute Beginning's eyes shrank. Xiao Chuyu's words had sealed his mouth. He couldn't utter another word. If he asked again, he really wouldn't be on the same level. Just like what Xiao Chuyu said, they weren't on the same level. Thus, even if he didn't know the exact answer, he could only watch as Xiao Chuyu left. The 5 elders from the Sword Pavilion also left. Ha ha! The Son of all beasts burst out laughing inwardly. They must be so curious. Only I have such competence. He was so proud. Only he was qualified to watch the battle between Chu Yang and Xiao Chu. The others were just bullshit. Ha ha! Who asked me to be so fierce? The Son of all beasts became happier the more he thought about it. Not everyone was qualified to be friends with Xiao Chuyu and that bastard Chu Yang. In the starting ground, besides him, who else could do that? It could be said that besides him, the others could only dream about it. Chapter 1707. Damn it! Ryuko Akagi gritted his teeth when he saw the Son of all beasts' smug look. He was the one who hated the Son of all beasts the most. However, he was no match for him. If he provoked him again, he would probably be beaten up by the Son of all beasts like last time. The only difference was that he didn't have the scapegoat talisman this time. Who won and who lost? Why do I smell that bastard's aura? Little Moon Goddess frowned, remembering the bastard who pulled her nose, rubbed her face, and spanked her. Then, she sensed again and came to a conclusion. She gritted her teeth and said fiercely in her heart, Chu Wudi must be that bastard. Don't let me find you. She immediately felt guilty. She felt that she was no match for that bastard. If they fought again, she would be spanked again. Little Moon Goddess's words broke the silence. The Son of Absolute Beginning and the Son of Destiny were also frowning. They couldn't tell who won and who lost. However, those who came to watch the show were already discussing. Chu Wudi must have lost. Did you see that? That should be Chu Wudi's broken bones. That's right. Chu Wudi must have lost. Even his bones are broken. Not necessarily. You came too late. You didn't see Xiao Chuyu's bruised face at all. It looks like he was beaten up by Chu Wudi. It's a bit miserable. How is that possible? How can a bruised face be more convincing than a broken bone? What's impossible? Didn't you see that the Son of Absolute Beginning and the others didn't dare to talk nonsense? It would be fine if they were only here. The Son of Absolute Beginning and the Son of Destiny were fine. However, there were some who were too excited or spoke without thinking. When they opened their mouths, the Son of Destiny and the others' faces darkened. The Son of Absolute Beginning and the others can't tell. It seems that they are really like what Xiao Qiyu said. They are indeed not at the same level as Chu Wuti. There's nothing wrong with that. If they were at the same level, how could they not tell? Chu Wuti is already shocking enough. He said that he would kill all the geniuses in the land of Absolute Beginning. The Son of Light was blown up by him, and even the Son of Underworld couldn't do anything to him with the 3 lives corpse. If that's the case, then the Son of Absolute Beginnings group is far inferior to Xiao Qiyu and Chu Wuti. It's really shocking. We can't blame the Son of the Absolute Beginning and the others. They aren't qualified to watch this battle. There's a reason behind it. How can we let a few pigs watch the show from the sidelines? Suddenly, after someone said these words, he immediately sensed many terrifying auras. He stopped abruptly, and his entire body began to tremble. The Son of Absolute Beginning wore a dark face. He didn't say anything and just flew away. The Child of Destiny, the Child of Light, and the Child of Underworld all had dark expressions as they left. When had they ever been looked down upon like this? Chu Wuti and Xiao Qiyu were dragons and tigers, while they were actually pigs. It was just that no one made a move. If they were to make things difficult for these people who didn't have good eyesight, they would appear even more unbearable. Thus, he could only endure. Soon, there wasn't a single genius left in the field. Oh my God! The aura just now was so terrifying. I almost thought I was dead. Many people heaved a sigh of relief. They were almost scared to death just now. Of course, they knew that the Son of Absolute Beginning and the other geniuses were enraged. They couldn't bear it anymore. Someone said that he's not on the same level as Chu Wuti and Xiao Qiyu. I think the Son of Absolute Beginning is going to explode this time. It's not just exploding. They can't bear it. Haha, it's not that bad. The Child of Light was blown up by Chu Wuti, and the Child of Destiny was forced to explode by Xiao Qiyu's sword. Wouldn't they feel even worse? That's right. This time, they're going to be called inferior. Chapter 1708. Because the Son of the Absolute Beginning and the others were angry, this news quickly spread. In the starting ground, other than looking for treasures and inheritances, everyone would talk about this when they were chatting. The situation was obvious. Who had not heard of the starting child? As a result, the Son of Destiny, the Son of Light, the Son of Underworld, 5 poisons, and other geniuses gathered together. There were so many of them, but they had to deal with Chu Yang together. It was a humiliation for them, but many still came. Who won the battle between the two of them? The Son of Destiny faced this question as soon as he came. Because he was the Son of Destiny, he knew many things that others did not know. Facing the Son of Light and the others, the Son of Destiny shook his head and said, I can't be sure either. Xiao Qiyu can cut the thread of fate, and that Chu Wuti doesn't seem to be in the river of fate. Therefore, I can't catch their tracks. The geniuses were slightly shocked. The Son of Destiny was the most mysterious. Even the Son of Destiny could not be sure. Then, these two people were really shocking. Xiao Qiyu should have won. After a long period of silence, the Child of Destiny finally said these words with difficulty. Xiao Qiyu's face is swollen. How do you explain this? The Son of Underworld and the others could not understand at all. At their level, they could die. How could they be beaten black and blue like ordinary people? It should be Xiao Qiyu who beat himself. The destined child continued. He probably took Chu Wuti as a true friend. Therefore, in the battle of seeking the Tao, although he won, he couldn't save Chu Wuti in the end. He was very dissatisfied with himself. He could only use dissatisfaction as an explanation. It was extremely far-fetched. In the battle of seeking the Tao, the winner would understand, and the loser would die. What was there to feel guilty about dying? At most, it was a pity. Since ancient times, there were too many people like this who died in the hands of their own friend. Therefore, he could only use dissatisfaction as an explanation. As for the result, he could not be sure. So, you think Chu Wuti is already dead? The son of destiny frowned and shook his head again. No, I'm not sure. Didn't Chu Wuti say that he would kill all of us? I will challenge him. As for calling all of you here, I would like to ask all of you to help me spread the news. None of the geniuses present could tolerate the fact that he was unqualified, and neither could the chosen one. However, this was definitely not his main goal. He had other motives. Chu Yang was not the only one who used battle as a substitute for training, and Xiao Chuyu was not the only one who craved the battle of seeking the Tao. The child of destiny also wanted to break through, so he also used battle as a substitute for training, and similarly craved the battle of seeking the Tao. At this moment, regardless of whether it was Chu Yang or Xiao Chuyu, they were both very good opponents who could help him break through. Of course, he was also prepared. He paid a great price to obtain the Grand Primordium Dominator's Death Substitution Talisman. Xiao Chuyu's sword Tao was too terrifying, especially when it could sever the string of fate. It was too much of a counter to him. Thus, he was bound to figure out who won and who lost in the battle between Chu Yang and Xiao Chuyu. The Death Substitution Talisman was too precious. He didn't want to waste it so casually. If Chu Yang won, it would be the best news for him. Chu Yang was a sword cultivator, and his strength was more shocking than Xiao Chuyu's. However, he might not be able to sever the string of fate. If so, Chu Yang could give him the most appropriate pressure and help him break out of his cocoon. So he was willing to gamble. The child of destiny was willing to take the lead, and the geniuses were naturally happy to see it. Thus, they cooperated very well. The news spread quickly. After the battle with Xiao Chuyu, there were still 3 to 4 days before the Qi of beginning erupted. Chu Yang found a place to settle down and comprehend the sword Tao. He used 2 days. After he came out of seclusion, he waited for the Qi of beginning to erupt. After he obtained the Qi of beginning, he would return to heavenly spirit realm. Chapter 1709. Did you know? Chu Wuti won the battle between Chu Wuti and Xiao Chuyu. Where did you get this news? How can you be so sure? TSK, this is called tacit understanding. Didn't you see that Xiao Chuyu didn't have any intention of refuting the news? I heard that it was leaked by the Green Lotus Goddess. The Green Lotus Goddess was there and saw the battle. Bullshit, the Green Lotus Goddess was there, but the news wasn't leaked by her. After all, the Sword Pavilion invited her to watch the battle and gave her face. How could she humiliate the Sword Pavilion? Green Lotus Goddess? Chu Yang frowned and muttered in his heart, that girl can't be taking revenge, right? That's possible. After all, I said that I would kill her 100 times. It's normal for her to hate me. He was grinning from ear to ear. Being hated by a woman, especially a peerless beauty, was a great thing to him. Wouldn't he fall in love with her? Wouldn't he be able to kill her 100 times? Anyway, Lon Lon doesn't know. Chu Yang was secretly delighted. But soon after, he heard people's discussions, and his face turned black. Chu Wuti still claims to be invincible and lonely like snow. He doesn't even dare to challenge the Son of Destiny. He's simply a coward. How dare he say that he's going to kill all the geniuses at the starting ground? That's bullshit. It stinks to the point of unbearable. In my opinion, he should be able to kill a dog. He can kill a dog? You think too highly of him. I think he should go back and kill his parents. Ha ha! Not only did the Son of Destiny want to challenge Chu Yang, but the Son of Light, Son of Underworld, and other geniuses also said that they wanted to challenge Chu Yang. Chu Yang heard all these and sneered in his heart. Damn it, after the battle with that bastard Xiao Qiyu, I don't need trash like you to practice anymore. But you don't know what's good for you. You actually dare to provoke your Grandpa Chu. In particular, he found that there were some people in charge of spreading the news. Their words were extremely vicious, and all of them were talking about his parents. This made him realize that this was very likely a trap. Those guys had probably dug a hole and were just waiting for him to lose his temper and show up. Of course, there were also people who defended Chu Yang. TSK, who do you think Chu Wudi is? Easy to bully and weak? The Scion of Light and the Scion of Underworld of the West were all swept away by him. It could be said that he was invincible in the same realm. The Chosen One couldn't even block a single strike from Xiao Qiyu, and Xiao Qiyu wasn't even a match for Chu Yang. If it were you, would you accept the challenge? This is simply unnecessary. What cowardly tortoise! I think it's obvious that the Chosen One is scared and set a trap for Wudi. Once Chu Wudi appears, who can stop him? The Child of Destiny and the others are not even qualified. Rumble! Suddenly, a terrifying big hand slapped down. Those who gathered there to discuss, especially those who spoke for Chu Yang, were directly smashed into meat patties and couldn't be more dead. Is the Chosen One someone you talk about behind his back and wantonly look down on? This is the result. The middle-aged man sneered and warned everyone. Immediately, the whole place was dead silent. No one dared to make a sound. What bullshit, Chu Wudi. He's just trash. How can he be compared to the Chosen One? Rumble. In the next moment, Chu Yang attacked. So what if it was a trap? Chapter 17:10. Rumble. In an instant, that giant hand seemed to have turned into the sky. Thunder and lightning fell like a lightning punishment from the heavens, shaking the earth and shaking the earth. Lightning arts are like a lightning tribulation. The middle-aged mid-celestial realm expert paled. What kind of terrifying lightning arts could be like this? With a swoosh, the godhead in his body flew out like a rainbow, welcoming the descending lightning. One. When the two met, the lightning energy completely erupted, bombarding the godhead. Like a spinning top, the godhead spun at high speed, emitting buzzing noises. Dazzling rainbow lights swept in all directions, devouring all the lightning energy. The lightning hand slammed down and grabbed the godhood. However, it was as if the hand was made of paper, and the godhood pierced a huge hole in it. Boundless lightning shot out, dazzling to the eye, but the godhood devoured all of it. In a flash, the godhead disintegrated the lightning hand, devouring it until nothing was left. Only a single godhead was left floating in the air, so dazzling. Godhead! Chu Yang's pupils shrank. He was confident that he could kill a mid-celestial realm expert, but against this middle-aged man, he couldn't do anything. The lightning arts he was proficient in couldn't do anything to the other party. I can only deal with ordinary mid-celestials, as well as those stupid mid-celestials who want to fight me in close combat. In the heavenly spirit world, the mid-celestial realm was the same as the nirvana realm. The gap between Chu Yang's realm was too big. Humph! The middle-aged man couldn't help but sneer, contempt and cruelty in his eyes. Just a mere primordial spirit realm expert, you haven't even successfully condensed your godhead. What makes you think you can fight me? Everyone present couldn't help but look at Chu Yang in astonishment when they heard this. They couldn't understand why a mere primordial spirit realm expert dared to attack a mid-celestial realm expert. Wasn't this courting death? Could it be that the people who were slapped to death just now were his friends and family? Therefore, he lost his rationality and made such an unwise move? Chu Yang had changed his appearance, so how could anyone recognize him? In the God realm, there were only a few people who knew his true appearance. Moreover, he changed his appearance frequently, so who could be sure of his identity? If I'm not wrong, you should be Chu Wudi. The middle-aged man sneered again. Only Chu Wudi would be so arrogant. He's confident that he can kill a medium god even though he's only in the primordial spirit realm. But you're really stupid. With me as bait, you actually dared to bite the hook. In an instant, those who didn't understand Chu Yang's actions were shocked. The person in front of them was Chu Wudi. Chu Wudi had appeared. They had no choice but to agree with the middle-aged man's judgment. In the starting ground, only Chu Wudi, who was in the primordial soul realm, would dare to attack a medium celestial realm cultivator. Another reason was that they knew many of the geniuses were at least at incipient god realm. If they weren't geniuses, how could an ordinary primordial spirit realm expert dare to attack a medium celestial realm expert? Swoosh. Their gazes couldn't help but fall on Chu Yang's body, looking at him with extreme shock. Stupid? It seemed like it was the first time Chu Yang was called stupid. He didn't seem to care much, but he revealed his white teeth and smiled strangely. You're the bait, your master is the fisherman, but do you think I'm the fish? As he spoke, he changed his appearance into Chu Wudi's. Chu Wudi, it's really Chu Wudi. It's really Chu Wudi. Chapter 1711. They could imagine that Xiao Chuyu could be defeated, but they could not understand why Xiao Chuyu was beaten into a pig's head. Unless Chu Wudi's strength far surpassed Xiao Chuyu's and formed an absolute suppression. But was this possible? Xiao Chuyu was already incomparably shocking. A sword light could sever the thread of fate, and even forced a heavens chosen like the son of destiny to self-destruct. However, what was so impossible about it? Chu Wudi's words just now clearly meant that he knew that the other party had set a trap, but he still dared to come personally. How could he dare to come if he didn't have the ability? Chu Wudi, you're not taking the path to heaven, but barging into hell without a door. You'll die from your ignorance and arrogance. The middle-aged man sneered again and was even more furious. Chu Wudi's arrogance was really unbearable for him. Have you informed your master? Chu Yang really didn't care about the other party, and such words, everyone understood, inform your master, and you can die. You want to kill me? The middle-aged man mocked. You couldn't kill me just now, but can you kill me now? Wait, you'll know. Oh, then you can come and kill me now, come? The middle-aged man's mocking expression became even more intense. You have guts, you have guts. Chu Yang couldn't help but sneer. Then I'll kill one for you to see. Whoosh. In an instant, Chu Yang was like a ray of light, his speed fast to the extreme, and was about to close in an instant. However, the middle-aged man didn't move at all, only a cluster of flames suddenly burst out from his body. The golden flames burned fiercely, as if they wanted to burn a hole in the void there. Divine fire, the divine fire of the middle god realm. Divine fire was a Tao fire. Not only was it the symbol of the middle god realm, it also had great destructive power, and was what the middle god realm cultivators relied on. A mere divine fire can do anything to me. Chu Yang sneered in his heart. He didn't change his direction, and directly used the fist of light to punch over. Bang! A beam of light shot out from the fist, upon contact with the flames, was immediately burned clean, not leaving a single drop. When Chu Yang's fist came into contact with the divine fire, his fist immediately turned red like metal, as if it was about to turn into molten iron. What's going on? Chu Yang's expression changed. He had come into contact with divine fire before, even Huo Wushuang's divine fire, but it couldn't do anything to him. What's different about this person's divine fire? Why is it so terrifying? Doubts rose in his heart as he didn't understand. He thought to himself, could it be that the divine fires I encountered before were all too weak? And Huo Wushuang is only a clone, so his so-called divine fire isn't that terrifying? Now, did I encounter a true divine fire in the truest sense? Hearing this, the middle-aged man was not dazed, just hearing it made people who heard it heard it's just by listening to hear it hearing it was listening Chu hearing him hearing it. How capable do you think you are? You're just playing to the gallery. The middle-aged man sneered again. Do you think the divine fire is made of paper? If my divine fire was just a little bit stronger, you would have been a dead man just now. Unfortunately, my divine fire is neither too strong nor too weak. Neither too strong nor too weak. Chu Yang was slightly stunned. He got a lot of information from the middle-aged man's mouth. It seemed like the level of the divine fire he encountered before was too low, and the one he encountered now was only a mid-level divine fire. Hu Wushuang was bragging. Chapter 1712. Swoosh. Chu Yang moved again, still extremely fast, still using the fist of light, aiming straight for the middle-aged man's throat. Chu Wudi, you haven't reached the divine flame realm. How can you be my opponent? Don't waste your time, it's useless. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly stopped. Unknowingly, a sword had already appeared in Chu Yang's hand. Although the divine fire burned away the light from the straight fist of light and was about to burn Chu Yang's fist, a sword appeared out of thin air and pierced through his throat when the power of the divine fire was stronger than the other two. Cough, 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 blood spurted out from his mouth. The middle-aged man looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. The fist of light, the same as Chu Yang's fist as bait, the sword as the hook. He actually took the bait. Until now, he still couldn't believe that he was killed by such a small trick. If I didn't underestimate the enemy, I definitely wouldn't have died. He died with his eyes wide open, extremely regretful. Chu Wudi only used his fist to temporarily block the divine flame, and then escorted the sword through the divine flame, and actually pierced his throat. He didn't die miserably, but he died too miserably. Die from ignorance and arrogance. Before dying, the middle-aged man remembered this sentence he gave Chu Yang, and immediately felt that he was even more pitiful. Wouldn't he be mocked even after death? Swoosh. Chu Yang immediately pulled out his sword, but saw that his sword was already completely red. Holding it in his hand, it was like holding a piece of red-hot iron, and couldn't help but frown. He wanted to kill a mid-deity now, but he didn't have any methods, and in the end, he had to rely on skill. Such a huge gap in knowledge was really hard for him to accept. I'm very strong, could it be that it's just an illusion? Chu Yang couldn't help but mutter to himself. He thought that his comprehension of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and other daos was deep enough, far surpassing his peers, but in the end, against a mid-deity, just a cluster of divine flame, he was almost helpless. For a moment, he even wondered if he was too arrogant before. I have to break through the barrier of cultivation level. Sometimes, being greedy wasn't a good thing. If Chu Yang hadn't been greedy, he would have broken through to incipient God realm. At the same time, when the difficulty of breaking through to incipient God realm increased, it would be even harder to break through the later realms. Naturally, it was harder to break through to a higher realm than a lower one. Damned Kuan, why didn't you remind me before? Such a big mistake could have cost me my life. Chu Yang could not help but blame the Ice Kuan. Before entering the starting ground, the Ice Kuan had always been by his side. It seems like I'm not invincible in the starting ground. I have to change my plans. The highest realm allowed in the starting ground was the mid-god realm. If there was an abnormal mid-god realm expert with an abnormal divine fire, Chu Yang would die without a doubt. Thinking of this, he immediately wanted to leave, but it was already too late. Before he could even move, a person arrived as if stepping on the sun. Light shone in all directions and locked onto him from afar. Behind him, the young man with eyes like millstones had already arrived in front of him at an extremely fast speed. Who else could he be but the Child of Destiny? You're not dead yet? The first sentence the Child of Destiny said when he saw Chu Yang revealed a lot of information. Until now, he was sure that the winner of the battle between Xiao Qiu Yu and Chu Yang was Chu Yang. You want me to say that this is indeed a trap? Chu Yang didn't panic. He wasn't invincible in the starting ground, but he wasn't someone who could kill him if they wanted to, even if that person was at the mid-god realm. You want to say that you knew it was a trap, but you still stepped into it, right? Although the Child of Destiny's words were sarcastic, he didn't sneer or mock. He didn't act high and mighty. He had to consider Chu Yang as someone at the same level as himself. Perhaps, as people had said, he wasn't at the same level as Chu Yang. You want to say that more people are coming, right? You want to say that you want to get rid of me immediately, right? Chu Yang looked at the Child of Destiny's eyes, looking at those millstone-like pupils. You want to say that you want to fight with me? He felt the Child of Destiny's surging battle intent. What do you think? The Child of Destiny naturally wouldn't deny that this was his true goal. Chapter 17:13. Xiao Chuyu didn't need to plan at all. It was easy to find him. The destined child didn't look for Xiao Chuyu, but actually came to him. Moreover, the destined child was almost cut in half by Xiao Chuyu's sword light and was forced to self-destruct. Was he not going to take revenge? Chu Yang felt that his understanding was not wrong. The destined child had a lot of opinions about him. Xiao Chuyu can cut the line of destiny. The destined child didn't mince his words and made a reply. His millstone-like pupils emitted rays of light as they rotated, making his eyes look like the sun. He looked at Chu Yang and said word by word, "But you can't." This was the reason why the destined child chose Chu Yang. At this time, Chu Yang also had doubts in his heart. Why didn't Xiao Chuyu use the sword technique to deal with the destined child during the sword competition? In the end, you still don't think I'm bullying you. As he spoke, 3 mid-god realm old men flew over. Then, like 3 wooden stakes, they stood behind the destined child without saying a word. Sealer! Chu Yang's pupils shrank. The destined child was waiting for them. After experiencing the shocking power of the divine fire just now, he was incomparably fearful of these sealers. They seemed to be only in the mid-god realm, but it was absolutely impossible. It was very likely that they were in the same realm as the Ice Kuan. If a sealer could reach a higher realm, then their divine fire would naturally be even more terrifying. It was definitely not something that the middle-aged man just now could compare to, nor was it something that the divine fire he had encountered before could compare to. Under the average level of the divine fire, they would probably stop at the mid-god realm for the rest of their lives. It would be difficult for them to advance any further. Chu Yang's judgment was not wrong. The divine fire was the Tao fire. It was the foundation to advance further. If this foundation was not solid enough, it was impossible to reach the peak. You want to kill me? Of course I want to kill you. The destined child said with incomparable certainty. Today, no matter if I win or lose, you must die. However, the tomb you chose is not good. Your eyesight is too different from Xiao Chuyu's. Ha! Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then he sneered. You can try, but don't regret it. The one who can make me regret hasn't been born yet. Suddenly, a rumbling sound came from the Chosen One's eyes. It was as if the world was being created. It was hazy and chaotic. Then, his eyes seemed to become 2 stars. They slowly rotated and shot out beams of starlight. The starlight shot towards Chu Yang, but strangely, even though Chu Yang was clearly in front of him, the starlight couldn't land on Chu Yang's body at all. It was as if it had entered another alternate time and space. Or perhaps, Chu Yang didn't seem to be in this world, so the starlight couldn't shine on him at all. You really aren't in the river of destiny as well. Now I finally understand why Xiao Chuyu isn't a match for you at all. The starlight in the Chosen One's eyes suddenly became abnormally cold. He looked coldly at Chu Yang. Xiao Chuyu's sword Tao of Destiny can't be used on you at all. You're like a criminal who escaped from prison, free and unpunished. I'm your mortal enemy, aren't I? You are indeed my mortal enemy. Compared to Xiao Chuyu, you are even more intolerable. No one can jump out of the grasp of heaven and earth. Anyone who jumps out is treacherous and unpardonable. The Chosen One carried out the will of heaven and acted on behalf of heaven. If heaven and earth were a prison, then the Chosen One would be a prison guard in this prison. There were many prison guards like him in this world, and the most intolerable thing for a prison guard was a criminal escaping from prison. This meant that they had failed in their duty. In that case, you're also my mortal enemy. I am indeed your mortal enemy. Chu Yang and the Chosen One were mortal enemies. The reverse was also true. Chapter 17:14. As you wish. The Son of Destiny suddenly pointed at the sky with one hand and the earth with the other. Soon after, a mysterious line appeared. Line of Destiny, go! This line was faintly discernible and impossible to catch. It seemed to be hidden in the river of time and space. Like a ray of light, it directly cut towards Chu Yang. The line of destiny? I wonder if I can sever it as well? Without a sound, Chu Yang's contradictory sword appeared in his hand, causing the Son of Destiny's pupils to tremble. Horizontal sword, horizontal line, Chu Yang roared. The veins on his neck were exposed and the contradictory sword in his hand was abnormally heavy. Clang, clang, clang. The contradiction sword also trembled and made a sword sound. With a buzz, the void rippled like water. He struggled to make a slash in the air. Then, he gasped for breath, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. The horizontal line was not visible, so no one knew what Chu Yang had done. However, everyone present knew that he was absolutely not shouting and yelling. There must be something inconceivable about it. However, they simply could not understand. Therefore, at this moment, everyone opened their eyes wide and stared at this scene without blinking. They were waiting for something unknown to them to happen and for the mystery to be revealed on its own. Thump, thump, thump. The line of destiny was silently cut down by something. It suddenly stopped moving and vibrated endlessly like a zither string, emitting a huge sound wave as if the zither of heaven was being played. The entire world shook. It was like a metal ball being hammered by a sledgehammer. The void seemed to have become tangible, a piece of glass that was also shaking endlessly. Thump! Under everyone's gazes, the line of destiny was like a zither string that suddenly broke. Half of it was like a clear energy ascending to the 9 heavens, while the other half was like a turbid energy descending to the 9 underworld. It instantly disappeared without a trace and the world returned to normal. You are also a sword cultivator. Seeing this, the destined son's millstone-like pupils quickly shrank. Coupled with his horrified expression, Chu Yang grinned from ear to ear. The Son of Destiny was very shocked and found it hard to accept. Of course I'm a sword cultivator too. You are not a sword cultivator, so why would Shao Qiyu look for you? I should have known. The Chosen One's expression instantly darkened. This was the worst situation for him. If Chu Yang could sever the line of destiny, then his heavenly will technique would be restricted and unable to be used. Wanting to use the collision of pressure to break through would become a delusion. At the same time, Chu Wudi had become a dangerous character in his eyes. He was like Shao Qiyu, cutting him in half. Nothing could be worse than this. The spectators were also stunned. What kind of sword technique is Chu Wudi using? It's even more inconceivable than Shao Qiyu's. I can't even see it? Such a profound and mysterious sword technique caused the hearts of those who saw this scene to surge like a storm, unable to calm down for a long time. They had never heard of such a sword technique, let alone know who had such a sword technique. In that case, all the more reason for me to die, right? Chu Yang rested his sword on the ground and said with a smile. Yes. Then should I die too? Yes. The Son of Destiny felt that the battle with Chu Yang was no longer necessary. Now, he only had one goal left, to completely eliminate his natural enemy, who had escaped from the cage and was at large. Since you're done, shouldn't it be my turn? Chu Yang once again revealed his 8 teeth, as if he was in an incomparably happy mood. Should you die too? You don't have the ability, the Son of Destiny said without any anger, as if he was just stating a fact. However, he did not appear to be high and mighty, nor did he show any contempt. Chapter 17:15. Because I'm not an idiot. The Son of Heaven's mandate had a great deal of recognition from Chu Yang, and even fear and reverence. Chu Yang couldn't feel happy at all. He couldn't even sneer when facing someone who said that he wanted to kill him. It was as if there wasn't a personal grudge between him and the Destined One. It was just that each of them had their own duties and responsibilities. To be honest, he didn't like this feeling, because this kind of opponent was the most terrifying. In addition, he also discovered that the 3 sealers behind the Child of Destiny didn't have the slightest intention of moving. They were still standing there like 3 wooden stakes. They didn't have any intention of making a move. You don't need to be confused. You're already surrounded. The eyes of the Child of Destiny seemed to have seen through Chu Yang. At this time, he had a deeper understanding of what Xiao Chuyu said to the Child of Destiny. The Child of Destiny really shouldn't have asked. Some people, as long as you came into contact with them, would completely understand. Words didn't even need to be spoken. For example, Chu Wudi in front of him. The Child of Destiny didn't understand this kind of person very well, but strangely, he could clearly understand the meaning behind each of his eyes, each of his movements, and each of his expressions. This was because his nerves were completely taut, and his divine sense was extremely sharp. In the midst of life and death, many things could be easily detected. The Child of Destiny felt the aura of death. Against someone like Chu Yang, he would be too slow if he still couldn't feel the aura of death. You're surrounded? Chu Yang felt very happy when he heard this. He also understood the Child of Destiny's meaning. If it was a war, it could be said that there was a group of enemy troops coming to surround you. This group of enemy troops appeared very quickly. From all directions they quickly surrounded you. Although it looked like they were all alone, they seemed to have brought along 100,000 heavenly soldiers and generals. Their auras were unimaginably vigorous. Child of Light. Child of Underworld. 5 Poison Child. Ho Wushuang. One name after another was called out by the shocked crowd. Every time a name was called out, their pupils would tremble and their eyes would widen a little. The shock in their hearts was like a huge wave that soared into the sky again and again. There was no sign of it descending at all, as if it would never descend again. How could they possibly believe that the scene in front of them would cause all of the heavens of the starting ground to become arrogant? Moreover, they were actually going to join forces to encircle and annihilate one person, putting down all of their pride. Who could receive such treatment? The answer was right in front of them: Chu Wudi. Chu Wudi had this kind of ability, Chu Wudi had this kind of qualifications. He was a great enemy of the heavens, a great enemy of the world. He absolutely couldn't be tolerated. Wu Zhaozi. Bai Wenpin of the Pupil clan. Wind Thunder. The war god of the radiant divine race. Looking at these people again, seeing them close in on Chu Yang step by step, everyone's nerves were stretched taut. They were incomparably cautious. The spectators immediately felt that even if Chu Yang died, he would definitely leave his name on the martial arts monument of the various divine realms. In the long river of history, he would blossom with the most dazzling light and become the most dazzling one. Little Moon Goddess had also come. Green Lotus Goddess had also come. Xiao Chuyu, son of all beasts, and the others had also come. However, it was as if they didn't have any intention of getting involved at all. It was as if they were only here to watch the show. People even discovered that the son of all beasts had already crossed his arms, waiting to watch this exceptional show. Chu Wudi wasn't invincible. After today's battle, if he didn't die, then he really was invincible. Chapter 1716. The Son of Destiny. The Son of Light. 5 poisons. 5 poisons. Apart from the landlords of the starting ground and the Son of Absolute Beginning, almost all the prodigies who should be here were here. There was only one battle. There was no other choice. Chu Yang had been completely surrounded. It was absolutely impossible for him to rush out. Unless these people were all idiot. However, the Son of Destiny and the others were not only idiots but also smart people. Therefore, even if Chu Yang had space-time ability, it would be difficult for him to escape. He could even be sure that the Son of Destiny had been prepared and had already sealed off this area in a short period of time. In addition, even if he could escape, those sealers would immediately make their move. Chu Yang looked around and saw the Son of Destiny, the Son of Light, and the others. Suddenly, a heroic spirit rose in his chest. Let's fight. Who's afraid of who? He couldn't help but laugh loudly. Haha, good, good, good. Today, I'll use you to build up my reputation of being invincible. When I say that I'm invincible and lonely like snow, you don't have to worry about any loopholes because I'm telling the truth. How could a clown withstand a single blow? Ha ha! He laughed heartily. His laughter was loud and clear, and it resounded in everyone's ears. At this time, who could still laugh? Everyone outside the arena couldn't help but be moved. Facing all these prodigies, Chu Yang was simply a hero with unparalleled courage. Who could compare to him? He made all the geniuses present pale in comparison. Now is definitely a good chance to smack this bastard's butt. But I don't care about being so shameless. Little Moon Goddess was a little conflicted. She wanted revenge, but she didn't want to kill Chu Yang. Are you sure you don't want to get involved? The Son of All Beasts asked Xiao Chuyu at this time. What's the use of getting involved? Xiao Chuyu said coldly. Do you think those sealers are vegetarians? After a pause, he said again. I'm afraid he doesn't want us to get involved either. Why? The Chi of Genesis. Chu Yang would only be able to gain an absolute advantage when the time came to compete for the primordial Chi after he had beaten the group of Sky Prides into submission. When the Green Lotus Goddess saw Chu Yang's unparalleled aura and his long hair fluttering in the wind, a hint of worry appeared in her eyes. Go ahead and laugh. If you don't, you won't have another chance in the future. Feng Xinglei opened his mouth and interrupted Chu Yang with a sneer. He actually dared to be so arrogant in front of so many of them. How could he tolerate that? Rumble. As if he was enraged, the wind and lightning wings on his back flapped violently. They continuously flapped out thunderstorms and blew out endless gales, causing that area to become a zone of destruction. However, he felt as if he was bathing in the spring breeze within it. Wind thunder, you reckless fool! Chu Yang's gaze was as sharp as a sword, and his aura was like a ferocious tiger released from its cage. It was extremely frightening. He suddenly looked over and said, You were the first to speak, the first to provoke me, and the first to want to kill you. Do you have any objections? Heh, how domineering! 5 Poison Child said sarcastically, You being the second to kill me, I definitely won't have any objections. Hiss hiss. His eyes were like a poisonous snake's, and his gaze was like a snake's tongue. When he suddenly looked at Chu Yang, it actually made Chu Yang feel the sound of a poisonous snake spitting its tongue. He even felt a sinister aura staring at him. Who else could it be other than 5 Poison Child? As you wish, the one who plays with poison. If I can't kill you once, I'll change my surname to yours. Ha ha! Hu Wushuang also laughed loudly at this moment. Then, do you want to change your surname to mine? There are so many people here. Chu Wudi, are you going to keep changing your surname? Have you asked your parents? When they were born, they might as well call you 100 surnames. Buzz. Chapter 1717. Ha ha! Hu Wushuang laughed even louder. His laughter was like a raging fire, and the sound waves were like rolling hot air. Chu Wudi, you're about to die, and you still dare to boast shamelessly. Aren't you afraid that the wind will hurt your tongue? No matter how strong the wind is, it can't hurt my tongue. Chu Yang sneered. You should be more concerned about whether the wind hurt my waist. The wind didn't hurt my waist, but the wind said that my tongue hurt. Do you have a problem with that? Feng Xinglei was best at wind and thunder, so his words were naturally the most authoritative. His laughter was also very mocking. There were those who provoked Chu Yang, and of course, there were also those who didn't provoke Chu Yang. For example, the Son of Destiny, the Son of Light, and the Son of Underworld. The three of them didn't make a sound. They already knew how terrifying Chu Yang was, and didn't want to become the source of firepower for Chu Yang. Feng Xinglei and Hou Wushuang didn't know that Chu Yang was the one who beat them up. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made a sound. Wu Duzi was used to being rampant, and he had poison in his body. Who wouldn't be afraid of him? As for Wu Zhaozi, by one pin of the Pupil clan, and the other geniuses, most of them didn't make a sound. There were gains and losses. Although it wouldn't be dazzling in this battle, it wouldn't be the biggest trouble in this battle. Feng Xinglei, there's a reason why you're first. Chu Yang's anger rose. He thought to himself, do you really think I'm a good student like you gangsters? Show me your strength. I won't scare you. Rumble. He directly made his move. A huge thunderstorm erupted from his body like a lightning tribulation. It carried endless lightning as it went straight for Feng Xinglei. Wind Dimension Slash. Feng Xinglei was already prepared. He also attacked directly, and his hands suddenly shot out a wind blade that cut the void. The void was like a giant beast that opened its ferocious mouth and wanted to swallow Chu Yang. Attack. At the same time, the Son of Destiny and the others made their moves. Line of Destiny. Light of Destruction. Fist of Light. In an instant, light, darkness, fire, thunder, poison, eye techniques, and the 5 elements all exploded out. Every single one of these techniques was a supreme secret technique with unparalleled power. At this moment, they all bombarded Chu Yang at the same time. The scene was incomparably grand, leaving everyone dumbstruck. Among the crowd, who had ever seen such a great battle before? At the same time, many people were frantically retreating, afraid that they would be caught in the crossfire. The combined attack of so many Sky Prides was unimaginable. Who knew what would happen next? Who knew what kind of terrifying power would erupt later? Chu Yang fell into a tight encirclement in an instant. He had a way to deal with the wind dimensional slash and kill Feng Xinglei. But there were already extremely terrifying attacks bombarding him from all directions, from all kinds of tricky angles behind him. In an instant, before the attacks arrived, the combined force of the many attacks squeezed the space he was in to the point that it was about to explode. Left with no other choice, he could only give up on killing Feng Xinglei and intimidate the crowd. He chose to hide. Whoosh! He used his extreme speed and burst out with a powerful attack, breaking through one side and frantically escaping from his original place, but it was still too late. Rumble! The space where Chu Yang was originally standing seemed to have eaten too many giant beasts at once. At first, it seemed to be uncomfortable, like a volcano that was about to erupt a space storm, but then it suddenly exploded. Space shattered, and an enormous black hole was blasted out. Countless spatial cracks spread out like a spiderweb. The back of the sword unharmed. Chu Yang was the closest to the explosion. The terrifying energy fluctuation was like the heavens taking a sledgehammer and smashing it. He was horrified and even used his swordsmanship, stabbing out a path like the path of the heavens. Bang! Chapter 17-18. Swoosh! Swoosh! The Son of Destiny and the rest instantly encircled and suppressed them. Chu Yang's internal injuries were serious. Even though his back was badly mutilated, he didn't dare to delay at all. With a rumble, he rushed out of the mountain. 7 light sacred body. A ray of light, an aurora, seemed to come from the horizon and was about to enter Chu Yang's back. Suddenly, a rainbow light appeared behind him. I'll do it! The Chosen One attacked. Light, cut it off. Immediately, a ray of light that looked like Chu Yang's cut off the aurora. The two collided. Chu Yang's aurora was like an army. It broke out of the encirclement and suffered heavy losses. At most, only half of it flew over. Darkness descends. The underworld child attacked. His big hand fell from afar. It was as if day had passed and night had fallen. The ray of light quickly dimmed and then disappeared completely. Darkness descended there. The Chosen One and the underworld child were originally enemies, but now the two of them had joined forces. If someone from the west saw this, their eyeballs would probably pop out of their sockets. Of course, the two of them were very clear about the technique Chu Yang used. How could they let Chu Yang succeed? Chu Yang's expression changed. He forced himself to use a sword technique. Horizontal sword, cut. As soon as the sword technique was used, the Chosen One immediately attacked. He used a line of destiny to cut it off, causing Chu Yang's attack to fail again. After that, he had no choice but to dodge. When he dodged the attacks of the group of geniuses, his injuries worsened. He looked as if he had just been fished out of a pool of blood. Blood flowed out like a small river. Chu Wudi, what else can you do? Just wait for your death. Feng Xinglei mocked again. It's time for you to die. It's useless to struggle anymore. The Chosen One no longer had any scruples. You killed me once and made me lose the death substitution talisman. Today, I'll take your life as compensation. Chu Yang's condition was too bad. He was no longer a threat to the group of geniuses. Thus, even if the Scion of Light didn't have a divine death substitution talisman, he still dared to speak casually. Underworld Child didn't pull back either. Huo Wushuang, 5 Poison Child, and the others who had originally spoken were even more ridiculing. The outside of the arena was silent. Many people had long been scared silly by the scene before them. Many people, even though they had fled far away, were still affected and were seriously injured. Such a terrifying joint attack was truly unimaginable. For Chu Yang to be able to persist until now and not die, in their eyes, was already very amazing. It could even be said to be a miracle. Are you sure you don't want to get involved? The son of all beasts narrowed his eyes. Not only to the crowd, but also to him, the result was already very clear. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. No matter how strong Chu Yang was, he was no match for them. There were more than 20 prodigies attacking him. Just thinking about it made his scalp go numb. We can only rely on him. Xiao Qiu, you looked at the protector of the geniuses. Once he made a move, the consequences would be even more severe. He no longer had any confidence in Chu Yang. Kiki. In the arena, 5 Poison Child laughed sinisterly, his voice extremely terrifying. How does it feel to be a prodigy beating a demon king? Does it feel good? I'm really curious, what kind of mentality do you have now? Do you feel despair? A prodigy beating a demon king. When the crowd heard this, they felt that this was the situation. Chu Wudi's actions could be said to be a demon king, but he didn't have the slightest ability to fight back. His methods were all sealed, and he was really just being beaten by the crowd. Miserable, miserable, miserable. Chu Yang was really a bit miserable now. However, he revealed his blood-stained white teeth and laughed. The third thing to die, aren't you celebrating too early? Chapter 17-19. You've violated the mandate of heaven and committed a heinous crime. You're about to die, yet you still don't know your crime and laugh shamelessly. You're really disgusting. While the entire audience was in awe of Chu Yang's elegant demeanor, such a contemptuous, arrogant, and aloof voice resounded throughout the entire audience. Suddenly, everyone present couldn't help but be surprised. They were very surprised. Chu Yang was so bold and heroic. Who could say such a thing at this moment? The chosen one. Everyone immediately knew that the only people who could speak such lies at this moment were all people with eyes. Heaven and earth suddenly fell silent. Ha ha! Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh out loud when he heard this. He naturally didn't like such words, but he absolutely liked this chosen one. The previous child of destiny was terrifying, but now, the current child of destiny was nothing but dog fart. In his opinion, perhaps it wasn't just the chosen one. Most of the geniuses who besieged him should be like this. Who asked him to look like he was about to die? How could they not look down on him? How could they not step on him again? The more he thought about it, the happier he was. The enemy's contempt was the best gift to him. He would politely decline. Are you explaining why you besieged me? A group of constables besieging a criminal. Wasn't this the most reasonable thing to do? Chu Yang smiled. He didn't even use the word shameless. Instead, he used the word besieged. For him, it was absolutely reasonable for a group of geniuses to besiege him. He was qualified to do so. At this moment, he was also incomparably arrogant. This official reason can be established, but it's a bit far-fetched. It's just a high-sounding reason to fool others and fool yourself. At the same time, it's also to tell others how unbearable you were before. You didn't even have a fig leaf to cover up your shame, so you had to create one on the spot. Chu Yang looked at the chosen one's millstone-like pupils and laughed. It was a contemptuous laugh, a laugh that was stained with blood. For the first time, the chosen one realized that Chu Yang was showing disdain for him, which was absolutely not the case before. After the first time he looked down on Chu Yang in a condescending manner, he immediately appeared. He was arrogant, but Chu Yang treated him with contempt. His perception was also incredibly strong, and he could clearly sense Xiao Qiuyu's disdain, the son of all beasts' mockery, the green lotus goddess, little moon goddess, and the others' displeasure, and even disgust. The people watching from afar didn't say anything, but he could sense that they were looking down on him. All of a sudden, his pupils constricted. He seemed to have done a stupid thing, a very stupid thing, which caused him to be in the top class before, but now he was in the bottom class. Sometimes, the contempt and humiliation of the enemy was the same as the contempt and humiliation of oneself. Chu Yang wasn't even a dog's fart, and a group of prodigies had joined forces to encircle and annihilate Chu Yang. Then what were they? They weren't even worth a dog's fart. He should have understood this principle, so in that instant, he suddenly felt that he was in the bottom class. At this time, he still had many choices, such as admitting his mistake and correcting it. Admitting one's mistake and correcting it was the most basic principle, the most basic virtue, the most basic accomplishment. The chosen one had such virtue, and he could have apologized to Chu Yang. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, admitting his mistake and apologizing to the enemy was slapping his own face. What kind of breadth of mind, what kind of magnanimity, and what kind of calmness was that? Who could laugh at him because of this? Who could look down on him? This would only make him more admired and respected by others. However, the chosen one didn't do so. Perhaps he didn't know the reason, or perhaps he knew that it was his pride that was causing trouble. Chapter 1720. Criminal, you are beyond redemption. A heavenly Tao diagram suddenly appeared above the Son of Destiny's head. It looked like an official's hat, and he seemed to be a minister of the heavens, carrying out orders on behalf of the heavens. Immediately, endless majesty erupted from the Son of Destiny's body. At the same time, he coldly rebuked, "My verdict is that you shall be executed. Carry it out immediately." The aloof and incomparably cold voice pressed down on Chu Yang, and it also fell into everyone's ears. Everyone was affected, and their hearts were filled with reverence. At this moment, as long as the Son of Destiny shouted, everyone would rush up without hesitation and kill Chu Yang. However, Chu Yang was calm and composed. He was not affected by the Son of Destiny. There was a faint, mocking expression on his face, but there was a trace of anger in his heart, and his killing intent was surging endlessly. Xiao Qiuyu's cold and indifferent expression had already turned into a mocking expression. The son of all beasts' lips curled into a cold smile, and he was laughing coldly. Their mockery and disdain were like a genius looking at a stupid fool. How could the Son of Destiny endure it? Do it, Rumble? At this moment, the heaven and earth were in chaos. Many geniuses attacked almost at the same time. Among them, as long as one of them moved, there would be a rumbling sound, and the heaven and earth would shake. Their auras were as deep as the sea, and they were extremely powerful, terrifying, and sharp. Endless killing intent swept through the area like a gust of wind, causing the people in the distance to tremble and lose their souls. They were terrified to the extreme, and they were like prey that was about to be hunted down. They had no strength to resist. Chu Yang stood in the field, and this time, he did not move. His entire face was dyed red, and a bright smile appeared on his face, revealing his white teeth. Blood flowed on his face, forming visible red lines. This bastard, what is he doing? The son of all beasts roared in his heart. If he did not dodge, Chu Yang would definitely die. Xiao Qiuyu's face was also filled with confusion, and he was very puzzled. You have to be careful. The Green Lotus Goddess subconsciously said such a sentence. Her anxious and worried expression was unmistakable. This made Lu Yun, who was at the side, instantly confirm that the Heavenly Maiden definitely had something going on with Chu Wuti. It wasn't just one thing, but many. She was a little dumbfounded. When did the Holy Maiden and this Chu Wuti have so many connections? Rumble. Many terrifying attacks landed on Chu Yang's body, completely engulfing him. A ball of light appeared there. Soon, the ball of light expanded rapidly like the sun. Then, it exploded with a boom. The void exploded and tore apart. Countless cracks spread out in all directions like bolts of lightning. In the end, the void was like a broken mirror, silently collapsing. The boundless light engulfed the world, making it impossible for people to see anything. In fact, it almost drowned out people's senses. A terrifying wave of energy swept over, but people could barely detect it. They couldn't even detect the gale that swept over. At this moment, the world seemed to have become blind and deaf. It was extremely quiet, as if there wasn't a trace of sound. The combined attack of the numerous sky prides this time was much more terrifying and intense than any of the previous times. Because Chu Yang did not move from the beginning to the end, their attacks were all concentrated on one point. The huge explosion that was formed was simply too terrifying. It could not be described with words at all. The light faded, the energy dissipated, and the gale gradually stopped. After an unknown period of time, the world had returned to normal. The space had long been repaired, but there was a huge abyss-like pit where Chu Yang originally stood. There was nothing else. There was no blood, no flesh, and no broken bones. It was empty. Chapter 1721. It was normal for such an attack to leave nothing behind. Even if there was flesh and blood that was not completely destroyed, it should have been swallowed into the space-time storm. Chu Wuti was dead? In an instant, such a thought appeared in everyone's mind. The Child of Destiny was like that. The Child of Light was like that. The Child of Underworld was like that. Even the Son of all beasts and the Little Moon Goddess were like that. Everyone was like that. However, no one could be sure that Chu Wuti was dead. Because Chu Wuti's choice was too strange. He could have escaped. Why didn't he? He didn't look like he was in despair at all. However, why did he make such a choice? What was he relying on? In an instant, countless consciousnesses gathered at the place where Chu Yang was originally. carefully searching the void. Then, they seemed to have found something. At this moment, an incomparably mocking voice came from there. "What the hell is your so-called judgment?" A ball of light appeared. There was a light figure in it that didn't seem much different from Chu Wuti. "Judge me? I'm not someone you can judge just because you say so. You're not worthy." His tone became even more disdainful. At the same time, the glowing figure was fully revealed. His hands were behind his back, and his eyes were like those of a gigantic beast as he stared at the group of geniuses. His face was filled with disdain and contempt. Chu Wuti! Chu Wuti was not dead. Boom! After the extreme shock, the people reacted before the child of destiny and the other heavens' prides exploded. My heavens! How did he survive such a terrifying attack? Yeah, how did he survive such a terrifying attack? It's hard to imagine. Is this the most amazing thing? Didn't you guys notice that the terrifying injuries on his body have all healed? Even the bloody clothes have all been changed. Buzz. Someone mentioned such a discovery, and the crowd exploded. Not only was Chu Wuti not dead, but his injuries had all healed. He stood in midair in a white robe, and could be said to be peerless. How is this possible? Many people were only left with shock. They couldn't say anything else. Could it be that all those terrifying attacks healed him? Someone even let his imagination run wild and voiced out such an absurd idea. If that's the case, then wouldn't he be heaven-defying? Not just heaven-defying, but invincible. He claims to be invincible. It seems that he is not lying. Wave after wave of shock, each wave higher than the last, and it seemed as if it would never stop. Such a scene had completely exceeded the imagination and understanding of everyone. How is that possible? The Son of Heaven's mandate's eyes were like millstones. When he saw the unscathed, white-robed Chu Yang, his eyes could not help but tremble intensely. He was almost stunned, and at the same time, a great fear grew from the bottom of his heart. When faced with the unknown, humans were often the most prone to fear. Feng Xinglei, Hu Wushuang, 5 Poisons, and the other heavens' prides all had the same reaction as the child of destiny. They had the same mentality and the same disbelief. Many of the sealers present could not help but burst out with terrifying spiritual thoughts, and all of them fell on Chu Yang's body. They were also incomparably shocked. Could it be that this Chu Wuti could not be killed? This is really a super bastard. The son of all beasts was also completely speechless. Xiao Qiu, you also didn't know what Chu Yang had done and how he had done it. When his eyes fell on Chu Yang, he couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, I'm really not as good as him. Chapter 1722. The green lotus goddess mouth was already wide open. Beside her, Lu Yun still didn't have the energy to observe the green lotus goddess reaction. She was absent-mindedly looking at Chu Yang in the middle of the field. At this moment, if she had reacted, she would probably say matter-of-factly, no wonder the heavenly maiden has so many things to do with him. I didn't even know. What this bastard does is inhumane. 1,000 autumns, the heavens never grow old, love is hard to break, I am invincible. Chu Yang began his speech. He closed his eyes and opened his arms. Then, he used his usual pose and said, Everyone, you have discovered my invincibility. Then, he began to sing. How lonely is invincibility, how empty is invincibility alone at the peak. The cold wind keeps blowing, who can understand my loneliness? At this moment, his wanton and unrestrained nature was fully displayed. His disregard was also vividly displayed. During this time, there were also frivolous, and all kinds of extreme ridicule, and extreme sarcasm. At this moment, Chu Yang was simply lawless. He made the heavens silent and the earth speechless. Many people were also speechless, because they really couldn't use words to describe the current Chu Yang. Saying that he was rampant was inappropriate. Saying that he was shameless was inappropriate. Saying that he was mischievous was also inappropriate, because what he said seemed to be the truth. He seemed to be invincible. But to say that he wasn't serious, that was even more inappropriate. Which serious person would be like this? Xiao Qiuyu was also speechless. He felt that Chu Yang should try his life and be a person like him. In his opinion, Chu Yang had already reached the peak of Chu Yang's character. Who could surpass him? Absolutely not. It was simply unprecedented, and there would be no one like it in the future. It was the best of the best. Why can't that person be me? The son of all beasts looked at the restless Chu Yang in the middle of the field. His heart was filled with envy. He couldn't help but yearn and daydream. If there was such a thing in my life, it would be worth it even if I died. He was in the limelight. He was in the limelight. He was in the limelight to the extreme. Chu Yang sang loudly again. How lonely it is to be invincible, how empty it is to be invincible. She who hides in the horizon, can't she listen to me, my loneliness, my endless loneliness? Listening to Chu Yang's singing, the green lotus goddess's heart was filled with all kinds of colors. She was filled with vegetables, rice, oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, and tea. Her emotions were extremely complicated. Such a Chu Yang really made her emotions infinitely rich. Her feelings were complicated to the extreme, and she couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. Lu Yun was no longer disgusted by Chu Yang's declaration that he would torture the green lotus goddess 100 times, 1,000 times, or even once. She even found a reason to defend Chu Yang. Extraordinary people who do extraordinary things can't be compared to ordinary people. Everyone, please shout that I am invincible. Chu Yang wasn't used to the fact that no one mocked him. As if he was itching for a beating, he started to tease the emotions of the crowd. This isn't difficult, just like this. Chu Yang guided. The invincible sun will live for thousands of years, lonely as snow, and all the women in the world will be happy. After that, he started to explain, I'm invincible, so I naturally don't have to worry about martial arts anymore. I can be intimate with all the women in the world and give birth to a child of the world. How can they not be happy? Am I wrong? Why aren't you guys saying anything? Chu Yang said in dissatisfaction. Chapter 1723. Even though the aged voice was slightly hoarse, it still rumbled in everyone's ears like rolling thunder. It caused their shock and disbelief to completely melt away at this moment and cease to exist. Chu Yang's invincible image was exposed like a fraud. There was no longer any mystery to him, and there was no longer any respect for him. He was just a liar. There was nothing special about him. It was his clone that was beaten to a pulp, but he had fooled them all. I knew it. How could someone not be able to block such a terrifying attack, and even come back from the dead? Yes, but this person is definitely not Chu Wudi. Only those who are stronger than the child of destiny can block it. Otherwise, it's just wishful thinking. After all, it's a joint attack from so many heaven's favorites. It's unimaginably terrifying. Such invincibility will only make people laugh. However, there were also people who disagreed. They shook their heads. No, no, no. I have to admit that Chu Wudi's move was indeed unexpected. If no one pointed it out, we would all be kept in the dark. That's right. Chu Wudi is really decisive. He directly abandoned his clone so that his plan would succeed. Thus, he saved his own life. This is definitely a quick-witted move. Unfortunately, he was still exposed. Although the sealer's realms are restricted, they are still not comparable to those heaven's favorite. The sealers haven't made their move yet. This time, Chu Wudi will definitely die. There's no suspense. So this is the kind of Chu Wudi you are. Xiao Qiuyu, the son of all beasts, the green lotus goddess, the little moon goddess, and Lu Yun felt that they were shocked for nothing. Chu Wudi was just putting on an act. He wasn't as shocking as they thought. Damn it! Unforgivable! This bastard! The Child of Destiny and the others were all played by Chu Yang. They didn't even realize it. Luckily, someone pointed it out. Otherwise, they would have become a complete joke. Thus, for a moment they were extremely embarrassed, extremely humiliated, and even more so extremely furious. Chu Yang didn't act like a swindler, panicking after being exposed and thinking of running away. There was no need for that. From the beginning to the end, the Child of Destiny and the other prodigies had only attacked his avatar in the god's world. At this moment, he naturally didn't have the slightest intention of fleeing. Just like what Xiao Qiuyu had said, he had to intimidate the Child of Destiny and the others. Only then would he be able to occupy an advantage in the fight for the Genesis Aura. Otherwise, he would still be besieged at that time. Chu Yang hoped that there would be fewer variables during the fight for the initial Qi. He pinched his chin and said with a smile, "Only now did you realize that it was my clone. Do you think you're so great?" Chu Yang didn't look like he was at the end of the road at all. Instead, he was like a hunter, looking at the Child of Destiny and the others as if he was sizing up his prey. Among the crowd, those who thought that Chu Yang would die without a word couldn't help but be stunned at this time. They thought to themselves, could it be that Chu Yang still has other methods? Or is he still pretending like before? This was really hard to distinguish. "Chu Wudi, you still dare to be stubborn after losing a clone?" Wu Duzi's face was gloomy as he said coldly, pretending to be strong, but cowardly at heart. "Again and again, you really are very capable." Not to mention Wu Duzi, which one of the prodigies wasn't angry. Chu Wudi regarded each and every one of them as fools. Now they were actually still using such a ridiculous trick. Chu Yang cast a sidelong glance at Wu Duzi, who played with poison, and then looked at the Child of Destiny and the others. "Is this all you've got? Did you really think that he didn't have any more tricks up his sleeve? Did you really think that you've completely comprehended it?" Chapter 1724. Only to this extent? Humph. Huo Wushwang snorted coldly, his eyes shooting out two tongues of fire. "Only to this extent, I still forced you to give up your doppelganger. Only to this extent, I will still beat you to a pulp later. Huo Wushwang, you defeated opponent, you will know your mistake later." Chu Yang was too lazy to look at Huo Wushwang. He sighed and said, "Sigh, is it really so difficult to let you feel my invincibility? Your comprehension ability is really worrying, even I am worried for you. The world is so dangerous, how are you going to survive? You really think you are invincible?" Feng Xinglei was enraged. He said, "The reason why I called you Chu Wudi is because I disdain to know your name, and I want you to be a nameless ghost." Another loser had appeared. Chu Yang squinted his eyes and pointed at him. "My words from before haven't changed. They're still valid. The first one I want to behead is you." Pausing for a second, he grinned and said to Feng Xinglei, "Try to feel behind you. See if there's anything that can surprise you." Feng Xinglei was about to fight back. He did not take it seriously, but there was indeed a shocking aura behind him that appeared silently. "What's going on?" Feng Xinglei was shocked. He was about to react. "Idiot, it's too late." Chu Yang's voice came from behind him, and he immediately became a ghost. Then, there was a buzzing sound in his head, his vision turned black, and he directly fainted. At this moment, everyone looked over and saw Chu Yang. There was one Chu Yang, there was a total of two Chu Yangs. The two Chu Yangs spoke at the same time. "Everyone, I am sorry, I was going to kill this thing, but I changed my mind before I died. You did not see the good show, I am very sorry." Almost no one heard such words. There was only one question in their hearts. When did Chu Wudi appear behind Feng Xinglei without making a sound? Chu Yang naturally wouldn't explain. His space-time technique was going to be used as a trump card later on. "I've changed my mind, but he can't hear me." As he spoke, he said to the audience, there should be a white stripe in the waves appearing. Ladies, please close your eyes. Gentlemen, please compare freely. Pung! With a flick of his finger, he burned all of Feng Xinglei's clothes. Immediately, a white stripe appeared. In an instant, Little Moon Goddess and Lu Yun cried out in shock. Their screams were so loud that they could almost shatter one's eardrums. The Green Lotus Goddess, who had her eyes closed, heard their voices and secretly rejoiced. Luckily, I closed my eyes. At this moment, she roughly knew what had happened. What was the so-called white stripe in the waves? Apart from the screams of Little Moon Goddess, Lu Yun, and a few other girls, there was no sound at all. That guy must have done something that made people speechless again. Xiao Qiu Yu and the son of all beasts were truly speechless. This was the so-called white stripe in the waves. Many people were thoroughly shocked. In a split second, they felt as if a hole had opened up in their head. Chu Wuti was actually capable of doing such a thing. Chu Wuti, you are really something. That was what many people were thinking. If there were people in the heavenly soul realm who were familiar with Chu Yang, they would not be surprised by this scene. Instead, they would say that this was very Chu Yang. After all, this was Chu Yang's masterpiece. Do you think this is the end? The two Chu Yangs spoke at the same time, attracting everyone's attention. He wanted to do something before the Wind Thunder Clan sealers made their move. Chapter 1725. The back of Wu Duzi's head immediately suffered a heavy blow. After hearing the voice behind him, he directly fainted. Before he fainted, he really didn't want to know anything, especially not what was called white stripe in the waves. Another Chu Yang. Everyone was shocked. Just now they had only heard a bang sound, and then they saw 5 poisons being suffocated, and then they saw another Chu Yang. They already didn't know how many doppelgangers Chu Yang had. Including the doppelganger that Chu Yang had just exploded, Chu Yang had 3 doppelgangers. Having 3 doppelgangers in the primordial spirit realm was definitely an unimaginable and terrifying thing. Perhaps in the history of the God world, there had never been a person who could create 3 doppelgangers in the primordial spirit realm. 3 doppelgangers were equivalent to having 3 more selves. The soul would be weakened a lot after splitting once, and splitting a second or third time was completely meaningless. It would only weaken the body. It was like a wolf creating 3 doppelgangers. Then, not only did it become a sheep, but the doppelgangers were also sheep. Compared to a wolf, what was the point of having 4 sheep? It couldn't increase the battle strength at all, and the recovery of the soul was really too difficult. Chu Yang had created 3 doppelgangers, the soul power didn't decrease, and the strength of the doppelgangers had to be terrifying. No one could do it. This was because there were simply too many requirements for the divine soul and other factors. Not to mention those far away, many of the heavens' prides present could only create 2 doppelgangers in the incipient god realm and mid-god realm. Feng Xinglei was in the mid-god realm, so he dared to be arrogant in front of Chu Yang. After all, his realm was considered high among the heavens' prides, and he could only create 2 doppelgangers, but this was also his limit. It was impossible for him to create a 3rd doppelganger, and both of his doppelgangers had been destroyed by Chu Yang. Even if I say you're the 3rd, my words are still valid. While everyone was still in shock, Wu Wushuang heard such a voice behind him. In an instant, he almost went crazy, but it was useless. He felt as if the back of his head was hit by a sledgehammer, and he directly fainted. What? Chu Wuti had another doppelganger. Many people were so frightened that their hearts were about to explode. He was only at the primordial spirit realm, yet he was able to create 4 avatars. All 4 of them were extremely powerful avatars. That was too terrifying. How did Chu Wuti do it? Many people couldn't help but have such a thought. 4 clones was too hard to imagine. The myriad manifestation child and Xiao Chuyu were completely dumbstruck. Only now did they realize that this bastard, Chu Yang, was far far more shocking than they'd imagined. This move of mine is very invincible, right? The 4 Chu Yangs opened their mouths at the same time, revealing their white teeth as they giggled. 1. Everyone was shaken as their minds buzzed. Even if Feng Xinglei, Wu Duzi, and Huo Wushuang had scapegoat talismans, it would be useless. They had become white stripes in the waves in front of so many people. How would they have the face to see others in the future? They would die of embarrassment. However, they didn't feel invincible. They only felt that it was immoral. Chu Wudi, this immoral, could be called Chu immoral. Bastard! Presumptuous! You deserve to die! After a short moment of silence, many sealers roared. They were so angry that they couldn't wait to eat Chu Yang alive. Chapter 1726. How immoral! Naturally, these sealers belonged to the Wind Thunder Divine Tribe, the 5 Poison Sect, and the Sect of Flame. They entered the starting ground to ensure the safety of their own prodigies. How could they have expected such a thing to happen? Normally, Feng Xinglei and the other 2 would have been defeated and activated the Death Substitution Talisman to send them out of the starting ground. However, Chu Wudi was immoral and did not play by the rules. Swoosh! 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 Many prodigies quickly retreated, leaving their original positions and distancing themselves from Chu Yang. At the same time, they paid close attention to their backs, afraid that another Chu Yang would appear and end up like Feng Xinglei and the other 2, becoming white stripes in the waves. Regardless of whether it was the Child of Destiny, the Child of Light, or the Child of Underworld, none of them were an exception. That was because Chu Yang's move was truly invincible. They could not withstand it, and it was worse than being killed. As for the other sealers, they were also extremely vigilant at this moment. They did not want the prodigies they were guarding to end up like that. Not only would the prodigies they were guarding be humiliated, but they would also lose face and make a fool of themselves. Seeing this scene, many people could only laugh in their hearts, thinking, this Chu Wudi is really evil. He scared those prodigies and sealers so much. Damn! The son of all beasts' eyes lit up. Looking at the 3 white stripes in the waves, he was full of admiration. Xiao Chuyu looked at Chu Yang, then at the son of all beasts, and the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch. Am I going to try to be this kind of person? Swoosh! Swoosh! The sealers of the Wind Thunder Divine Tribe, the 5 Poison Sect, and the Sect of Flame move. The 3 Chu Yang, each holding a white stripe in the waves, gathered together and suddenly shouted at the same time, "Why are you still not stopping? Since you have seen my invincibility, why are you still not kowtowing?" He even scolded angrily, "All of you are guilty. Kill. Bastard, you must pay for today's stupidity. If you don't die, the heavens will not tolerate it." Chu Yang saw that the sealers, who were filled with killing intent, didn't have the slightest intention of attacking. He stuck the 3 white stripes in the waves close to each other and put them into his space ring. Then, he said, "Now that you know what Long Yang is, do you still want to see my invincibility?" With a loud boom, the sealers from the Wind Thunder Celestial Clan, the 5 Poison Sect, and the Flame Worship Celestial Clan stopped in their track. Some of them even fainted and fell to the ground. Son of a bitch, this is too insulting. All of them seemed as if their parents had been killed by Chu Yang. All of them gnashed their teeth while their faces warped, and they were aggrieved to the extreme. However, there was nothing they could do. I am indeed invincible. 4 Chu Yangs, each more narcissistic than the other, each more arrogant than the other. All 4 of them lifted the long hair in front of their forehead. Too many people were at a loss for words. Chu Wudi was actually this kind of invincible. However, they had no way to blame him. Chu Wudi wanted to save his life now, so there was nothing he couldn't do. Fuck! On the other hand, the son of all beasts' eyes lit up again. He felt that his thinking had been surpassed again. Chu Yang's manipulations had enriched his imagination in an instant. His heart was itching unbearably. He couldn't wait to give it a try. This time, Xiao Chuyu felt a toothache. Chapter 1727. Let me tell you, I have medicine. Not only did Chu Yang speak confidently, but he also acted as if it was a matter of course, without the slightest sense of shame. As for what embarrassment was, he probably did not understand it at all. Even if there were people present who did not understand what the so-called medicine was, they should be able to understand it after seeing the reactions of the others. This is too much of a bastard. Wicked, simply too wicked. Shameless, this is the epitome of shamelessness. Soon, many people among the crowd began to criticize Chu Yang. Generally speaking, most of them were related to the Wind Thunder Divine Clan, and the other two parties. These people wanted to use the crowd to pressure Chu Yang, but it was a pity that they met Chu Yang. Thank you for your compliments, everyone. I am honored and will definitely continue to work hard to live up to your expectations. Chu Yang waited for the noise to die down before he spoke. As soon as he opened his mouth, those who were playing games were immediately silenced. Their thinking was a little too naive. How could such a wicked thing care about the opinions of others? The son of all beasts also snorted. Who was this bastard Chu Yang? He was someone who could make his eyes light up again and again. This was simply a godly assist. Chu Yang continued, Seniors of the three parties, there's a good saying that we should enjoy blessings and endure hardships together. Seniors, think about it. If the others were like your little master and became little white dragons in the waves, wouldn't there be a lot less criticism? The sealers from the Wind Thunder Celestial clan and the other two clans were moved when they heard this. If everyone was like this, wouldn't they be able to reduce the awkwardness by a lot? However, these sealers were all old and cunning people. How could they show what they were thinking? Chu Yang was trying to divide them. He had to admit that two fists were no match for four hands. He was not strong enough to ignore these sealers. The Child of Destiny and the others were already difficult enough. Of course, he had to give the Wind Thunder Celestial race and the other two forces a reason to attack. Then, he began to speak with vigor. Seniors, let's go and beat up the Heaven's favorite. Strip them naked and turn them into little white dragons in the waves. No one moved. However, other than the sealers from the Wind Thunder Celestial clan and the Wind Thunder Celestial clan, the rest of the sealers were like beasts that had awakened and were about to come out to hunt. They all released dangerous auras and were obviously about to attack Chu Yang. Chu Yang was already prepared for this outcome. He immediately glared at the sealers of the Wind Thunder Celestial clan, Flame Worship sect, and Five Poison sect and said angrily, My words don't count, right? Then I can only let your young masters have a special hobby so that their lives won't be so monotonous. You, Chu Wudi, you better not go too far. Killing people is just a matter of nodding your head to the ground. Aren't you afraid that everyone in the world will be as vicious as you when dealing with you? The sealers of the three forces were extremely angry. Chu Yang was secretly happy. As expected of old foxes. You really know how to cooperate. It's time for you to make your move. However, even if the sealers of the three forces made their moves, most of them were just half-hearted. However, this was enough for Chu Yang. At least, he could hold back a portion of the sealers. He provoked them carelessly. Yes, I'm going too far. What can you do? Do you dare to say no? The sealers of the Wind Thunder Celestial clan and the Wind Thunder Celestial clan were all speechless. Chapter 1728. I'm sorry, everyone. I was forced to do so. Sigh, there's nothing we can do about it. I hope everyone can understand. The situation is beyond our control. Everyone, I'm sorry. The group of sly old fellows were obviously trying to drag the other Sky Prides down with them. However, they made it sound so righteous and helpless. Even so, Chu Yang could forget about it. These sly old fellows were ruthless. It was his job to turn more sky prides into white stripes in the waves. Boom! Boom! As soon as the sealers from the Wind Thunder Celestial Clan, Flame Worship Celestial Clan, and Five Venoms Celestial Clan made their moves, many sealers immediately stopped them. In an instant, the battle became very lively. However, it was just for show. Chuwoody, you're really despicable. You're a despicable person. Vicious, despicable person. Everyone, why should we care? Let's just kill him. Chu Yang's actions angered many sealers. They no longer cared about anything else and attacked Chu Yang. The four Chu Yangs sneered at the same time in the face of the sealers rushing toward them. At that moment, a dull thud was heard. Everyone looked over and saw another Chu Yang emerging and knocking Ryuko Akagi over from behind. He burned Ryuko Akagi's clothes and another small white dragon appeared in the waves. 5 Chu Yangs. In other words, including Chu Yang's doppelganger that was destroyed, Chu Yang had 5 doppelgangers. At that moment, it was unknown whether Chu Yang's original body was among the 5 Chu Yangs. Everyone was shocked once again. The entire audience cried out in alarm. Chu Yang could actually become even stronger. Naturally, Chu Yang would not explain the secret of his doppelganger to them. He said loudly, "Seniors of the Red Dragon Clan, I hope you can understand the supreme principle of sharing happiness and suffering together. Otherwise, your Ryuko Akagi will be one against many." The Red Dragon race's sealer's vision went dark. This time, they were the unlucky ones. They could only turn their guns around. Of course, they also fully understood what it meant by sharing blessings and suffering together. As for the Child of Destiny, the Child of Light, and the rest of the Heavens Chosen, they felt their hair stand on end. Especially when they thought about the white stripe in the waves, they couldn't help but shudder. Chuwoody's methods were too strange and too vicious. How could they accept such a thing? If it really happened, then there was no way to live. Kill. There's no need to worry. Even if he has 5 doppelgangers, even if a large portion of our strength has been reduced by him, it's still more than enough to kill him. That's right. Everyone, at this point, we can't hold back anymore. No matter what, we have to completely eliminate this bastard. The effect was very obvious. Chu Yang had aroused public anger, and many sealers attacked even more fiercely. At the same time, the Child of Destiny and the rest did not hide. There was no use in hiding. Only by killing Chu Yang could they prevent such a terrifying thing from happening. Immediately, the scene became chaotic. Chu Yang was once again in a predicament. Bastard Chuwoody, you really know how to play. The situation seemed to be very unfavorable for Chu Yang. In fact, it was extremely bad. However, in the eyes of the son of all beasts, it was much better. All the sealers had been riled up. At this moment, it was indeed dangerous. However, after this calamity, there would be no more danger. I feel that the white stripe in the waves will appear again. Xiao Chuyu rarely spoke. Tui tui tui, this bad guy. Little Moon Goddess's face turned red. Although Chu Yang had put away the white stripe in the waves, another one would appear by accident. She couldn't even watch the show. After that, she could only close her beautiful eyes completely like the Green Lotus Goddess. Chapter 1729. Chu Yang did not fight with the sealers. His original body and his 4 clones began to flee in all directions, planning to divide the battlefield into 5 parts. Chuwoody, didn't you call yourself invincible? Aren't you as lonely as snow? Why are you running away? Don't run if you have the guts. Let's see if I can beat you to a pulp. Where can you run to? Even if you crawl into a rat hole, you'll still die today. Space trembled as various loud noises rang out. Rays of light exploded from time to time. Surging energy waves burst out densely, mixing with various furious roars and interweaving together, causing the scene to become even more chaotic. However, it also appeared to be incomparably orderly. The Wind Thunder Divine Clan, Flame Worship Sect, Five Poison Sect, and Red Dragon Clan were fighting fiercely with the Sealers. Although there was no life or death danger, they were entangled with their opponents. This was the limit of what they could do. They could only rely on Chu Yang to share their blessings and hardship. On the other side, the 5 Chu Yangs had divided the allied army of the Heaven's Favorites and the allied army of the Sealers into 5 different groups, keeping them far away from each other so that they could not gather together. At this point, Chu Yang finally launched his attack. Old dogs, little dogs, do you really think this invincible can't do anything to you? The 5 Chu Yang sneered at the same time, and the same words burst out from 5 directions. Then, Chu Yang began to show his prowess. In silence, the 5 Chu Yang disappeared at the same time, and the spatial fluctuations caused by it were immediately detected by the alliance of Sky Prides and the Sealers. Not good space technique, everyone, be careful. Be careful, be careful of a sneak attack. We've been fooled. Hurry, our 5 parts must gather together quickly. In the starting ground, the upper limit of the realm was the intermediate God realm. With limited strength, Chu Yang, who was proficient in space technique, had the absolute advantage. Once the 2 alliance forces were separated, it was easy for the other party to seize the opportunity and attack them. Immediately, there would be another white stripe in the waves, and their strength would be constantly depleted. Whether it was the Sky Prides or the Sealers, they were finally terrified. Chu Wudi actually only took out such a trump card at this time. The sudden reversal of the situation caused an uproar in the crowd. Spatial technique, this Chu Wudi actually used spatial technique. Definitely dead, my ass. Who can defeat Chu Wudi like this? 5 clones and proficient in all kinds of spatial arts. Even light, darkness, and sword arts are extraordinary. Not even heaven-defying can be this ridiculous. The Child of Heaven and the others are finished. At the very least, they will become white stripes in the waves. Ah! A woman let out an earth-shattering shriek. Suddenly, all sound was erased, and the person who let out the shriek was the Witch of the Shifting Flower Palace. Before she was knocked unconscious, she clearly knew what the consequences of this would be. As a result, she screamed in fear, and was so scared that her soul almost left her body. Everyone could understand her feelings because she was a girl. Feng Xinglei, Hu Wushuang, and the other boys could be played with by Chu Yang, not to mention a girl like her. Therefore, even though she was a witch, she was completely frightened. All the fighting couldn't help but stop at this moment. Something big had happened. Chu Yang took the opportunity and said, "I've caught a peerless beauty. Everyone, do you want to see white stripes in the waves?" Someone almost shouted, "Yes." The Shifting Flower Palace's Sealers' faces turned pale, and they immediately surrendered. Let's talk nicely, let's talk nicely. Instead of talking nicely, let's do it properly, everyone, I'm right. Chapter 1730. No, another panic-stricken voice was heard. Bai Wenpin of the Pupil Clan had also been killed by Chu Yang and turned into a white stripe in the waves. The Sealer of the Pupil Clan had no choice but to compromise and kill one of his own. He even vaguely wanted to share his blessings and hardships together. The scene became a little comical. Chu Yang, who was originally at an absolute disadvantage, completely turned the situation around. He's really something. Xiao Qiyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was no longer worried about Chu Yang, because Chu Yang was definitely going to win. If Xiao Qiyu was already like this, there was no need to talk about the Son of All Beasts. At this moment, the Son of All Beasts, Jane, was full of admiration. It could be said that he was prostrating himself on all fours. The originally extremely dangerous situation was actually turned around by that bastard Chu Yang with such a simple trick. To share blessings and endure hardships together, this sentence indeed had a profound meaning. There were countless people who sighed the same way as the Son of All Beasts. They were also incomparably certain that if those prodigies who had turned into white stripe in the waves were present, they couldn't wait for the other prodigies to turn into white stripe in the waves immediately. I'm white, you're white, everyone's white is the true white. You're not good, I'm not good, everyone's not good, that's the true white. The various sealers who were in charge of protecting the white stripe in the waves naturally had the same mentality. This was a matter of face. I've lost face. If you don't lose face, where should I put my face? Especially the big factions. Which big faction didn't care about their own face? If everyone was the same, then the big brother wouldn't laugh at the second brother. They would be on equal footing, and everyone would be happy together. People realized that Chu Wuti was definitely not as simple as he looked. He was definitely not just a weirdo. There was obviously some kind of hidden wisdom in his weirdness. Those who didn't understand would only mock him, but those who understood couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Rumble. In the field, the battle became more and more intense. Many sealers, who were in charge of protecting the prodigies, were already extremely anxious before they became white stripe in the waves and were entangled. Because of that, they suddenly unleashed heavy attacks. Soon, the battle between them became a life-and-death battle. Killing moves were unceasing. Terrifying explosions and terrifying waves of energy continued to burst out. The battle was so intense that it seemed like it had turned into a confrontation between many great forces. Especially after sealers began to die, the situation became even worse. This caused the pressure on Chu Yang to lessen. He went from being in a hopeless situation to being in a disadvantageous position, and then from being in a disadvantageous position to being in a balanced situation. In the end, he gained the upper hand. Among the prodigies, he didn't turn any of the women into white stripes in the waves. After all, the other party was a woman. He was just doing her a favor. As for the other heaven's favorites, as long as they were caught by him, they were all turned into white stripes in the waves. In the end, only the child of destiny, the child of light, and the child of underworld were left. The sealers responsible for their safety had already been surrounded by the other sealers. In terms of sealers, Chu Yang had the absolute advantage. He only had to face these three people. In terms of strength, he had the heavenly soul world doppelganger, the god's doppelganger, the demon doppelganger, and his original body. In total, there were 5 of them. This was a situation of 5 against 3. Chu Yang also had the absolute advantage. The 3 of you should enjoy blessings and endure hardships together. Your brothers and sisters have all become white stripes in the wave. You should be more self-aware. After Chu Yang spoke, the whole field couldn't help but fall silent. The battle between the sealers also completely stopped. There was no need for that anymore. The prodigies that they were protecting had all fallen into Chu Yang's hands. As for what would happen in the end, it would have to wait until the child of destiny, the child of light, and the child of underworld were all turned into white stripes in the waves. Chapter 1731. The child of destiny, the child of light, and the child of underworld felt the hostility and pressure from the sealers. Their faces were gloomy like trapped beasts, helpless and powerless. There was no worse situation than this. What? Didn't you hear what I said? Chu Yang clenched his fists and said with a smile, I'll ask you again. Are you going to take the initiative, or do you want me to do it myself? Who would have thought that the final result would be like this? Not long ago, the child of destiny was so arrogant that he directly ordered Chu Wuti to die. However, the wheel of fortune had turned a little too quickly. How much time had it been? The child of destiny had actually fallen to such a state. He had been forced to turn himself into a white stripe in the wave. It was a joke for a heaven's pride to beat up a devil king. It only increased the Devil King's reputation. Winning at the beginning was not a real victory. Only the one who had the last laugh was a real victory. Everyone had mixed feelings when they saw this scene. It seemed that every one of them had to keep a low profile in the future. They definitely couldn't end up like the Child of Destiny and end up like this. They didn't know where to put their face and how to live. Didn't the Child of Destiny have a scapegoat talisman? They can self-detonate now. Some people were puzzled. What was there to be afraid of with a scapegoat talisman? Are you too uninformed? The Child of Light and the Child of Destiny have already been killed once. How can they have a scapegoat talisman? But the Child of Underworld has one. Then why didn't the Child of Underworld use the scapegoat talisman? Is he stupid? Stupid my ass. If he uses the scapegoat talisman, the sealers of the underworld will definitely be enraged and all of them will be killed. That's right. Didn't Chuwoody say that we should share blessings and hardships together? How can the underworld be an exception? If they don't pay a price, even if Chuwoody agrees, the others won't agree. To become a white stripe in the waves or to kill all the sealers on their side, it's not a hard choice. Those sealers are most likely at the holy god realm. Saint deities were saints in the heavenly spirit world. The life and death of a few saints was more important than personal honor. Thus, the choice was definitely not difficult. Everyone immediately knew Chuwoody's confidence. Chuwoody, do you dare to not ambush us and fight fair and square? The Child of Destiny said coldly. This was his final struggle. He was proud, but wasn't Chuwoody proud as well? Thus, he challenged Chuwoody. You are not convinced? Chuwoody heard him. Then, of Chuwoodies? Chuwoody-ofs? Chuwoody of Destiny? If I don't use my space technique, it won't be too difficult for me to destroy you. People didn't comment on Chu Yang's words because they didn't need to. Of Chuwoody of Underworld. Of Chu of Destiny's of Destiny. He. Woody of Destiny. Was Underworld. Was it he it. Of them Chuwoody. Of them of s of test of course. Even if it was just a straw to clutch at, it was still comforting. Please, the three of them spoke in unison. Chuwoody didn't dare to be careless anymore. Chuwoody had killed his way to fame. Now, the Child of Destiny and the other two had long felt that they were inferior to Chuwoody. They also felt that their chances of winning this battle weren't high, but they still had a chance. If there was a chance, of course, they couldn't give it up. Please, I invite you to attack first. As Chuwoody spoke, he kept his 4 clones. Everyone was shocked again. Chuwoody didn't use his clones. Chapter 1732. Great! The 3 were overjoyed, but they couldn't help but become even angrier. This was a good thing, but it was also the greatest contempt for the 3 of them. However, they couldn't say that Chu Yang was arrogant, because they had to admit that this thing was extremely shocking. It had far surpassed them and left them in the dust. Swoosh, swoosh. The 3 of them secretly communicated with each other. Then, they immediately moved and formed a triangular formation, trapping Chu Yang in the middle. String of Destiny. The Son of Destiny was the first to make a move. The void rumbled, and an innate Tao diagram appeared above his head again. This time, it was clearer, more mysterious, and more profound than the previous one. The aura it emitted was also more shocking. The connate Tao diagram still gave people the feeling that the Son of Destiny was a minister of the heavens, carrying out the orders of the heavens, managing, operating, and educating. However, the Son of Destiny seemed to have been promoted. The majesty of the connate Tao diagram was at least 1 level higher than before. With a clang, what appeared was no longer the String of Destiny, but the Sword of Destiny. The String of Destiny had become the Sword of Destiny. The Son of Destiny had broken through. Although he had broken through at this juncture, it seemed to have come too late, and it didn't have any effect at all. Everyone was shocked and exclaimed, but the Son of Destiny wasn't too happy. The Sword of Daybreak seemed to have been drawn from its scabbard. It was gray and indistinct, seeming real and illusory at the same time. It was as if no one could control or grasp it. It wasn't in this space, but in another space-time. When the sword was drawn, it was like an angry king, about to kill someone. Immediately, the sky changed color, and everyone was terrified. The onlookers couldn't help but kneel down. Corpse of the 3 generations! The son of Underworld roared like a wild beast, and then he was shrouded in rolling demonic mist. Darkness descended, and in the endless darkness, a pair of scarlet and terrifying eyes appeared. The sound of chewing corpses and all kinds of terrifying sounds came from the endless darkness, making people's scalps numb and hair stand on end. Clang! 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 A strange sound suddenly came out, and the demonic mist exploded. Immediately, people saw the son of Underworld turn into an evil corpse from the coffin. He picked up the coffin and threw it at Chu Yang. The void trembled, completely dyed black. It was a kind of black. It was unknown whether it was a spatial storm that had appeared when the void was smashed, or if the void had been dyed pitch black. Endless death chi, corpse chi, and rotten chi swept out, corroding everything. Nether Child also seemed to have made a breakthrough. Fist of Light. Endless light burst out from the Scion of Light's body, as if a sun was rising from the depths of his body. Using the radiant straight fist, his speed seemed to be as fast as light. With a punch, a beam of light shot out, transforming into a divine spear. On the tip of the divine spear there was a drop of blood. The color of the blood couldn't be seen because there seemed to be something hidden in that drop of blood. Its aura was incomparably terrifying. The spear of Longinus, the spear of Longinus stained with the blood of the Lord. The change in the Son of Light's straight radiant fist greatly astonished the sealer of the Radiant God cult. The spear of Longinus could only be used by the Radiant God cult's war god, but the Scion of Light had actually comprehended it. The Son of Destiny took the first step, followed by the Son of Underworld and the Son of Light almost simultaneously. The 3 of them used all their strength to launch an attack, and at the same time, they sublimated at this moment. Each of them had comprehended something, each of them had a breakthrough, and their power had increased by a notch. Chu Yang didn't feel much of a fluctuation in his heart. The combined attack of the 3 of them was much weaker than the combined attack of the group of Heaven's Prides, so much so that he didn't feel much pressure. However, he had to admit that the 3 Sons of Destiny were extraordinary. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were Heaven's Prides. In a situation where they couldn't retreat, they all made a breakthrough, which made him feel amazed. Chapter 1733. Good, just in time. Under the 3 huge attacks, the space around Chu Yang seemed to be squeezed like a balloon, almost deforming, but he was not afraid at all. Clang! The contradictory sword was instantly unsheathed and stabbed out, ignoring the Son of Light and Son of Underworld, facing the Son of Destiny. Back of the sword. The daybreak sword was extremely shocking, as if the heavens were angry. Chu Yang did not plan to face it head-on, so he used the back of the sword. His contradictory sword and the daybreak sword slightly missed each other, and then under the effect of the rules of sword, he and the Son of Destiny crossed paths. Swoosh! Chu Yang landed at the Son of Destiny's original position, and the Son of Destiny landed at Chu Yang's original position. Like the yin and yang points of yin and yang, they immediately formed a Taiji diagram, erupting with an extremely mysterious aura. It was as if the Tao of Heaven was displayed in front of everyone, causing everyone to become absent-minded. Rumble! With a violent explosion, the Son of Destiny and Chu Yang swapped positions. The sudden change was so wonderful that it directly caused the Son of Light and Son of Underworld, who were about to attack Chu Yang, to directly attack the Son of Destiny. The Son of Light was caught off guard. Although he tried to withdraw his attack, it was too late. On the contrary, the Son of Underworld, who had lost his mind and only relied on a strange instinct to withdraw most of his strength. However, even so, the Son of Destiny was immediately heavily injured and sent flying. With a loud bang, the ground shook and tore apart. Dust soared into the sky and was completely covered by smoke and dust. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. What sword technique is this? It's so amazing! It's as if the universe has been turned upside down. Not only did he dodge the Son of Destiny's all-out attack, but he also pushed the Son of Destiny into the abyss. It's killing two birds with one stone. This sword technique is like the work of the gods, just like the Sword of Tao. Amazing, too amazing. This Chu Wudi's ability to grasp opportunities is unparalleled in the world, not to mention other things. Xiao Qiu looked at Chu Yang's sword and his eyes flickered. His sword technique is even more skillful. Rumble. While the crowd was still in shock, the battle in the field did not stop for even a moment. Underworld Child held a coffin and swung it at Chu Yang again. Surging death chi corroded everything, making sizzling sounds. However, the rising white smoke was instantly swallowed up by the coffin. The coffin only opened a little, revealing a black hole that was as deep as the abyss. It devoured everything, as if it wanted to swallow the entire world and bury it. As for its power, it was obviously extremely terrifying. Chu Yang frowned slightly. He didn't hate the darkness, but he hated the aura of death, the aura of corpses, and the corrosive aura. Hence, he had no intention of engaging in close combat with the Underworld Child. Reincarnation. He immediately used the Reincarnation Divine ability. A black hole appeared and swallowed the Underworld Child and the coffin. The third life corpse could not enter the cycle of reincarnation, so reincarnation was the nemesis of the third life corpse. Chu Yang had already thought of this when he had fought with the Underworld Child, but he had only used it now. Rumble. The void trembled and the light was dazzling. The Son of Light cooperated with the Underworld Child. When the Underworld Child attacked with all his strength, he also attacked. This was the last chance for the three of them. Hence, he unleashed all his potential. When he used the straight fist of light, he was like a spear of Longinus. A spear of Longinus's light. Chu Yang had just used the Reincarnation Divine ability and did not dodge. He directly punched out. Straight fist of light. Depraved fist. Chapter 1734. Kachacha. The spear of Longinus collided with Chu Yang's fist. It was as if the spear had struck a piece of divine metal. The drop of blood at the tip of the spear was directly obliterated. Then, cracks appeared on the spear and it broke apart inch by inch. Chu Yang took advantage of the situation and directly attacked the root of the problem. With a bang, his fist landed on the Son of Light's chest and sent him flying. Wah! The Son of Light stabilized his body in midair and knelt on one knee in midair. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his aura was extremely weak. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper and his eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Chu Yang. Chu Yang's fist just now made him feel as if he was facing both the Lord of Light and the Lord of Darkness at the same time. That kind of aura really made his heart tremble. Bang! At this time, the Underworld Child was also thrown out of the black hole formed by the Reincarnation Divine ability. His body was cracked and blood was flowing out. The Three Lives Corpse Forbidden Technique had been completely disintegrated. He was stunned on the spot. The Three Lives Corpse Forbidden Technique that the Underworld race relied on to survive was actually so easily dispelled. If Chu Yang ascended to the supreme position, wouldn't it mean that he could destroy the Underworld race with just a wave of his hand? The Underworld Child trembled and his pupils shrunk into pinholes. There was an extremely strong killing intent in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it at all. The battle between Chu Yang and the three children of destiny was decided in the blink of an eye. It was more or less 2 rounds. Many people were still looking forward to the exciting battle, but almost as soon as they started to look forward to it, the battle was already over. The outcome was already clear and there was no doubt. Hiss! Many people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air and were even more dumbfounded. It was over so quickly. They knew that Chu Yang was strong, but they didn't expect him to be so strong. Even the 3 children of destiny were immediately crushed and ended in the blink of an eye. Fast, so fast that it was suffocating and hard for people to accept. The group of sealers looked at the scene in front of them and were deathly silent. This was because they could feel how shocking Chu Yang was more than ordinary people. The difference between their own heaven's prides and him could be said to be like the difference between heaven and earth. The difference was too great. Such a figure stood at the pinnacle of his generation. No one could match him, and there was even less suspense. In an instant, their killing intent towards Chu Yang had reached its peak, just like Underworld Child. As long as such a person didn't die, he would definitely suppress all of them until they couldn't breathe. It was just that, in the starting ground, wanting to kill this Chu Wudi should be basically impossible. Just like Chu Wudi's name, Chu Wudi was truly invincible in the starting ground. Of course, not everyone thought the same way. The same rice could feed 100 different kinds of people. There were always some people who had other thoughts. Are you convinced? Chu Yang stood proudly in the air like the king of the origin, looking down on the child of heaven, child of light, and child of underworld. The 3 of them were speechless as they lowered their arrogant heads. If you don't say anything, I'll take it that you've agreed. Chu Yang spoke again, and his voice became very cold. You should turn into white stripes in the wave. Then, we'll have to start something new. Don't you think so? At this moment, it was Chu Yang's time to collect the debt. Everyone understood this point. No matter who it was who was besieged and had their clones killed, after turning the tables, they wouldn't let their enemies off easily. Between enemies, it was always a matter of life and death. There was no such thing as leniency. If you want to turn into a white stripe in the waves, you'll have to turn into a white stripe in the waves. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. Many people were waiting for the 3 children of destiny's choice, waiting for them to make an extremely humiliating choice. Chapter 1735. Bang, bang, bang. 3 balls of flames ignited in succession. The child of destiny, the child of light, and the child of underworld all turned into little white dragons in the waves, announcing the end of this matter. The difference was that the child of destiny and the other 2 were even more humiliated, making people look at each other in dismay. After all, these 3 were supreme geniuses, but they ended up like this in the end. Bang, bang. The child of destiny and the child of underworld quickly chose to self-detonate, turning into a rain of light and disappearing on the spot. Only the child of light remained there, hanging by a thread, looking even more pitiful and ashamed. Many people were surprised that the child of destiny had a second death substitution talisman, but that was it. Chu Yang began to take out the white stripes in the waves, and then exploded them one by one, forming a continuous rain of light, making this area suddenly very beautiful, moving people's expressions. In the end, only 2 white stripes in the waves were left, Ryuko Akagi and the Child of Light. Both of them no longer had death substitution talismans. We will use a drop of Myriad Dragon origin in exchange for his life. Without waiting for Chu Yang to speak, the Scarlet Dragon tribe immediately took out the so-called Myriad Dragon origin. In an instant, the sound of 10,000 dragons resounded, as if a world of dragons had been opened. At this moment, the scene of 10,000 dragons soaring in the sky appeared in everyone's mind. In their consciousness, their ears were filled with dragon roars, and they even felt like they were about to transform into a real dragon. This wonderful scene disappeared in the blink of an eye. When everyone looked over, they saw a dragon shrouded in clouds. One could only see the dragon's tail, and the rest of the body was completely covered in clouds. No matter how strong one was, they could not see through it. Mysterious dragon's head but not its tail. Chu Yang could not help but squint his eyes slightly. He did not understand the so-called myriad dragon origin, but he felt that it was extraordinary. At the same time, he had the flood dragon martial spirit. No, it should be said that after the frost space dragon martial spirit sensed the myriad dragon origin, it let out a resounding dragon roar in Chu Yang's consciousness, revealing an extremely ardent desire. At this moment, someone in the crowd immediately cried out in shock. His voice was filled with disbelief. Myriad Dragon's source. It's actually the Myriad Dragon source. The Crimson Dragon clan is really going all out this time. It's said that the Myriad Dragon origin contains the secrets of the origin of the Dragon clan. It's even rarer than the primordial chi. That's not all. This Thousand Dragons origin has a great effect on one's spirit. However, not many people know the specifics. Not only is it extremely beneficial to the soul, it is also extremely beneficial to the body. This was especially true for the Yao clan, who desired the Myriad Dragon's origin the most. If they knew that Chu Wudi had the Myriad Dragon's origin on him, I'm afraid they would also come to snatch it. Even if Chu Yang hadn't heard the discussion, because of his frost spatial dragon martial soul, he would have agreed immediately, let alone now. Sure, you are very sincere. When the Myriad Dragon's origin fell into Chu Yang's hands, countless fervent and greedy gazes could not help but instantly follow. Many people wanted to immediately go up and snatch it, but in the end, no one dared to. With a swoosh, the Myriad Dragon's origin directly entered Chu Yang's glabella and was devoured by the frost spatial dragon martial soul. Immediately, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, darkness, and so on burst out from the frost spatial dragon. After that, the benefits that the frost spatial dragon martial soul had obtained from Chu Yang's cultivation, reincarnation, chaos, and so on, all burst out. It seemed to have entered the reincarnation cycle by relying on the Myriad Dragon's origin, and then was reborn as a dragon. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared, and when it reappeared, it had already become a real dragon surrounded by chaos. The Chaos Dragon. The frost spatial dragon directly turned into the Chaos Dragon. Chapter 1736. Roar. The Chaos Dragon martial soul was extremely excited. It roared continuously and sound waves came out from between Chu Yang's eyebrows, forming visible ripples. It was as if he could grab it with his hand. At the same time, small dragons came out from Chu Yang's body and circled around him. It was as if his body had turned into a nest of 10,000 dragons. At this moment, he seemed to have turned into a dragon as well. There was a faint chaos chi that was about to burst out from his body. Chaos Dragon? The Red Dragon clan noticed the change in Chu Yang's body, and they couldn't help but exclaim in a trembling voice. The aura was similar, but they weren't sure and couldn't believe it. Even if Ryuko Akagi absorbed the drop of Thousand Dragon's origin, there wouldn't be such a shocking change. Who is the real dragon? At this moment, the Red Dragon clan was a little confused. It was as if they were the real dragon. It's definitely not the Chaos Dragon. If it's the Chaos Dragon, then it's impossible. It's impossible. The ancestral dragon is the Chaos Dragon. Even our clan can't become the Chaos Dragon, let alone him. But he's Chu Wudi. What's impossible? The Red Dragon clan's sealer's expression was very interesting. He looked at Chu Yang with a strange gaze. He wanted to know the specific situation. How would Chu Yang explain anything to them? He immediately changed the topic and said to the sealers of the Divine Light cult, "What about you guys? Don't you think that your little master hasn't been disgraced enough? Do you still want him to be a white stripe in the waves?" He didn't feel much about the thousand-dragon origin, but the transformation of the dragon martial spirit was real, to the extent that it made him feel like he was in a dream, incomparably unreal. My dragon martial spirit has improved just like that. The sealer of the Divine Light cult froze. At this moment, only the Divine Light cult was embarrassed. They were like ants on a hot pan, sitting on pins and needles. They didn't know what to do. Eventually, they said, "We can use 3 death substitute talismans of the Radiant God cult to exchange for it." They couldn't be sure, because the 10,000 dragon origin that the Crimson Dragon clan took out was too rare. How could Chu Wuti take a fancy to an ordinary item? In addition, the Scion of Light had a great enmity with Chu Wuti, so Chu Wuti definitely had the intention to kill him. Scapegoat talisman? TSK, what do I need that for? Sure enough, Chu Yang immediately spoke in disdain. It wasn't that he looked down on the scapegoat talisman, but that this scapegoat talisman was probably useless. There were 2 reasons. First, even if the Divine Death substitute talisman of the Radiant God cult wasn't a trick, the expert of the Radiant God cult, who could refine the Divine Death substitute talisman, should be able to sense the location of the Divine Death substitute talisman. If Chu Yang carried it, it was like the Radiant God cult had installed a tracker. Secondly, he was someone from the heavenly spirit world. He would definitely stay in the heavenly spirit world in the future. This was also the reason why he dared to offend so many geniuses and the various transcendent powers in the divine world. Would the death substitution talisman be useful in the heavenly spirit world? Chu Yang expressed his doubts, but he couldn't say these reasons out loud, so he could only express his disdain. Then, he boasted even more shamelessly, "Those who use the death substitution talisman are all worthless. I don't care." Everyone was in an uproar. The sealer of the Radiant God cult was in a dilemma. In fact, there were indeed some people who would never use the death substitution talisman. They believed that a person only had one life, so it was precious. They couldn't use the death substitution talisman to blaspheme the dignity of life. They also didn't want to use the death substitution talisman to act recklessly and develop the bad habit of ignoring their own lives. Or, there were some people who were extremely confident that they couldn't be killed, so they didn't want the death substitution talisman at all. Chapter 1737. Brother Chu, can I apologize to you on his behalf? At this moment, a voice suddenly interrupted. Then, everyone suddenly saw a thin, malnourished young man from the east. He was dressed very simply, like a farmer, but his body was very clean, without a single speck of dust. His aura was normal, like that of an ordinary person. The most eye-catching thing about this young man was actually his eyes. His eyes were so pure that when people saw him, they would instantly see kindness. They could not help but feel joy and happiness. Their hearts would be filled with warmth. Hope and light were everywhere, and they would feel that everything was good. Because of this young man's appearance, the world could not help but become completely silent. While Chu Yang was sizing up this young man who had appeared out of nowhere, this young man was also sizing up Chu Yang with a kind smile. That kind of smile made Chu Yang suddenly feel that it should be the kindest smile in history. And the person in front of him was definitely the purest and kindest person in the world. But Chu Yang didn't feel any trace of holiness or divine aura from him. Such a person's cultivation was definitely shocking, and his aura was definitely very holy. "May I ask for your name?" Chu Yang cupped his fists and asked casually with a smile on his face. He did not have any scruples. Whether he was a kind person or not, he would know after giving it a try. As soon as this thought appeared, he immediately added, "Brother, if you were to become a scammer, you would definitely be the best scammer in the world. I think I would definitely not be as good as you." Ha! The young man was stunned, but then he could not help but laugh. "Then," he said, Brother Chu, it seems that I will definitely not be lonely with a person like you. He felt that Chu Yang was really not polite, so he said, My surname is also Chu, I am Chu Yi. Chu Yi. Chu Yang was slightly surprised. A kind person named Chu Yi? He said again, Brother Chu, when you see Brother Chu, your eyes are filled with tears. I say, can you change your name to Chu Shan from 500 years ago? You're just wasting such a high-end and classy name. Haha. The person who called himself Evil Chu couldn't help but laugh out loud. 500 years ago, how long have you been acting like this? Chu Yang rubbed his nose and immediately retorted, This is called not being serious. I originally thought that since you are from the same family, you would be able to understand this invincible's elegance. Who would have thought that you are also a layman? I am so sad. Seeing sadness, tears welled up in my eyes. Chu Er laughed out loud again. I'm sad too. I said sad number one, can you not make me sad? This guy seems to be pretty good. Chu Yang didn't feel like trying anymore, and returned to the main topic. He pointed at the Scion of Light and said, This guy, is it really appropriate for an Eastern dog like you to be concerned about a Western pig? Can you give me a reason for your concern? Didn't you say that all men are equal and that people from the East and the West are the same? You're using my logic to attack me? Chu Yang's eyes widened. He didn't feel any malicious intent from Chu Wu, but he couldn't see through Chu Wu's background either. I'm the gifted child of the Radiant God cult. Is that okay? Boom. There was a commotion in the crowd and they couldn't calm down. Immediately there was an uproar. The gifted child of the Radiant God cult, the gifted child of the Radiant God cult actually appeared. How can the gifted child of the Western God cult be someone from the East? This is unbelievable. If he is the gifted child, then according to the Radiant God cult, isn't he the incarnation of the Lord in the mortal world, walking in the mortal world? Everyone was like this, let alone the people of the Radiant God cult. Even the Scion of Light, who was in the state of white stripe in the waves, couldn't help but look at Chu Wu in a daze. His pupils trembled, and his expression was extremely complicated. He couldn't help but think of everything that Chu Yang had said to him before. The Lord said that all men were equal, and there was no difference between Eastern dogs and Western pigs. Because of this, he almost suspected that Chu Yang was the gifted child. Who would have thought that when the gifted child appeared, he actually had the face of an Eastern person? Chapter 1738. The Blessed Child. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. He didn't know much about the Blessed Child, but he saw everyone's reaction. You seem to be very powerful. It's not appropriate for me to say that. You should know. The smile on Chu Yi's face grew wider. Brother Chu, this reason is enough, right? Yes. Chu Yang nodded. He didn't mind giving Chu Yi some face, especially since he might be the Blessed Child. But he smiled and pointed at the people of the Radiant God cult. But do they believe you? Brother Chu, you're from the East. They already believe. Chu Yi looked at the Son of Light and the rest of the people of the Western God cult. Am I right? Chu Yi didn't show any signs of magic. He just said so calmly. After a slight pause, the people of the Radiant God cult all believed him. Greetings, blessed child. They all knelt down piously. Chu Yang was a little surprised in his heart. The methods of this gifted child are extraordinary. Then he pointed at the Son of Light and said, Then what I said to this thing before was not wrong. It wasn't wrong to begin with. He needs to be educated. He does need to be educated. Did I educate him well? Chu Yi couldn't help but smile helplessly. Only Brother Chu can make him completely wake up. I see. Chu Yang couldn't help but pinch his chin. He couldn't see through Chu Yi. Brother Chu, you seem to be saying that I'm very powerful. Aren't you already invincible? That makes sense. Chu Yang put his hands on his hips and laughed. Ha ha ha, I'm indeed invincible. If that's the case, then Brother Chu agrees. Facing such an invincible opponent, Chu Yi could only smile bitterly. In fact, he was also very afraid of Chu Yang. The Lord is merciful. Chu Yang completely gave up on this evil Chu and began to act like a fraud, because his face began to shine, as if a holy sun was about to rise from his face. Chu Yi was speechless for a moment, but he could only force an explanation. Only someone like Brother Chu, who knows that all life is equal, would joke about the Lord. After a pause, he warned the Scion of Light in front of everyone, "If you harbor any grudges and dare to take revenge, I will personally eliminate you. Do you understand?" "Yes, Son of Grace, I will listen to your teachings." The Son of Light buried his head even deeper. "Yes." As Chu Yi spoke, he flicked his finger and said, "I'll give you this scapegoat talisman. A person like Brother Chu doesn't need a scapegoat talisman, but you don't have to take his words to heart. There's no such thing as mediocrity. Do you understand?" Before the Scion of Light could answer, Chu Yang pinched his chin and said, "I say, 500 years ago, you slapped my face in front of me. Is that okay? If I don't slap Brother Chu's face, I will feel inferior." "I like that." After saying that, Chu Yang said to Chu Yi, "You're from the same clan from 500 years ago. Step aside. I still have some improper things to do." Seeing Chu Yang looking at the sealers, Chu Yi naturally understood. He nodded and said to the people of the Radiant God cult, "All of you, follow me." "Yes, Son of Grace." The people of the Radiant God cult immediately stood aside with the Son of Grace, completely removing themselves from this matter. Everyone immediately distanced themselves from Chu Yang and pulled away from him. As long as they stayed away from Chu Yang, they would definitely stay away from the center of the storm. Chu Wudi humiliated all the geniuses of the major forces and killed them once, using up the scapegoat talisman. Chapter 1739. Everyone, you can start taking your revenge now. Chu Yang smiled and said to the group of sealers, "I also want to let you know how invincible I am." In the eyes of the crowd, Chu Wudi was still as arrogant as before. He still looked down on the heroes of the world and did whatever he wanted without any restraint. There was a moment of silence. None of the sealers wanted to make a move. Chu Wudi had 5 clones, which was extremely shocking. He was also proficient in spatial technique. In the starting ground, under the situation where their realms were suppressed, no one had the confidence to capture or kill him. In addition, Chu Wudi did not seem to have revealed all his trump cards. If they were not careful, they would repeat the same mistake and be humiliated to death like those Heaven's Prides. It's really surprising that no one made a move. I also thought that there would be a big battle. I didn't expect that even the sealers would be so afraid of Chu Wudi. There shouldn't be a big difference if so many sealers and Heaven's Prides joined hands. Chu Wudi can withstand the alliance of Heaven's Prides. How can those sealers not be afraid? Chu Wudi is invincible in the starting ground. None of the sealers made a move. In the silence, the crowd could not help but discuss. Chu Yang was also a little surprised. However, this was the best for him. He had achieved his goal. As for when he left the starting ground later, he would definitely be hunted down by the sealers. However, he would deal with that later. Everyone, if you don't plan to take revenge, then this invincible will go for a stroll first. Chu Yang cupped his fists and said to the sealers, "This invincible will welcome you to take revenge at any time." After that, he said to Chu Yi, 500 years ago, we will meet again. Let's meet again in the future. 500 years ago, we will meet again in the future. Chu Yi also cupped his fists and replied. Whoosh! Chu Yang immediately left, and soon disappeared without a trace. This matter was considered to have come to an end. The sealers of the major forces also left. The crowd also began to discuss. Remember what I just said. Chu Air looked at the direction where Chu Yang left and said to the people of the Radiant God cult, "None of you can have any evil thoughts towards him. Perhaps he is the true body of the Lord. The Lord's true form." Boom. The Radiant God cult's people were shocked, especially the Son of Light. He couldn't believe it. His lips trembled as he said, "The Son of Grace? How could the Lord be like him?" "So I said maybe," Chu Yi said in an uncertain tone, "the true Lord doesn't just control the light, he controls everything. Our Lord is only one of the subordinates of the true Lord, responsible for managing the light. He's not from the God's world, he's from the heavenly soul world," Huang Xiaolong exclaimed. One. The Radiant God cult's people's minds buzzed again. They were so shocked that their jaws dropped. Chu Wudi was from the heavenly spirit world. The heavenly spirit world was weak, at least one level weaker than the various divine worlds. How could the heavenly spirit world's geniuses treat the other divine world's geniuses like dogs? The Son of Grace, the Son of Light asked the question that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. Why do I have such deep respect for him? You should know that one of our radiant sovereigns died in the heavenly spirit world. He refined the radiant sovereign's 7 soul origins. How can you not respect him? This is why I said that he is very likely to be our true Lord, the most supreme Lord. He continued, the radiant sovereign who died in the heavenly spirit world, even if his consciousness was completely destroyed, his 7 soul origins are not something that anyone can refine. Chu Yi didn't continue, but the Radiant God cult's people understood what he meant. The Son of Grace, if he's in danger, we will need to help him. Chapter 1740. The conversation came to an end, and the starting ground regained its tranquility once again. Everyone who entered the starting ground did what they were supposed to do. After a few days, there was finally a change in the starting ground. Rumble. Thunder-like rumbling noises began to resound throughout the starting ground. At the same time, a folded space began to appear in the sky above the starting ground. The fluctuation of time and space gradually became more intense, and the entire sky began to become hazy and chaotic. With such a change, whether it was the people who entered the starting ground or the primitive creatures in the starting ground, none of them were surprised. Instead, they seemed somewhat excited, somewhat expectant, and even called out to each other. The origin volcano is about to appear, and the origin chi is about to erupt. We have to hurry over. Only if we stick together can we have a chance. Otherwise, not to mention other things, even if the origin chi is sent to us, we won't be able to enjoy it. That's right. Even if it's only a trace of the origin chi, we ordinary people can't bear it, let alone refine it. We have to stick together to bear it, and only then can we have a chance to refine it and obtain the supreme opportunity. Many people began to gather. Among each other, those who were familiar with each other, those who were reliable, formed one group after another, and then rushed to the place where the origin chi was about to erupt. The Child of Destiny, Child of Underworld, Feng Xinglei, Huo Wushuang, and the others had already entered the starting ground, and they all rushed over. Damn it, I'm afraid that Chu Wudi will have the upper hand in the fight for the origin chi this time. We have to continue to grit our teeth and compromise. Endure it a little longer. Once we've endured it, we'll leave the starting ground, and Chu Wudi will die without a complete corpse. I'll definitely not let him go. What he did to me, I'll definitely return it 100 times, 1,000 times. Many heaven's prides gnashed their teeth, and their hearts were filled with anxiety. They were afraid of encountering Chu Wudi again. This time, they didn't have the death substitution talisman. If they were killed again, they would really be dead. In addition, the white stripe in the waves. They really hated and feared Chu Wudi. Has it finally begun? On a lake, the Son of Absolute Beginning landed on the surface of the water. He moved with the waves like a small boat, but not a drop of water touched him. He raised his head and looked at the misty primordial chaos. Suddenly, he couldn't help but clench his fist. His handsome face revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Chu Wuti, after obtaining the primordial chi, I will complete my godhead and form the strongest and most perfect godhead. When that time comes, let's see whether you or I am stronger. Am I going to step on you, or are you going to step on me? The Son of Absolute Beginning naturally knew about the battle between the Heaven's Chosen and the Demon King. He didn't participate because he felt that it was beneath him to do so. Who was he? He was the Son of the Absolute Beginning, the one who was most likely to create the strongest and most perfect godhead in the history of the Tai Chu tribe. How could he lower himself? That was not only a humiliation to him, but also a humiliation to the Tai Chu tribe. However, when he found out the final result, he was speechless for a long time. He felt even more pressure in his heart. He felt that his destined opponent had appeared. Rumble. After another day, the starting ground shook even more violently. It was as if it was about to explode. Then, with a loud rumble, turbid air gushed out from the sky and flooded the area. Instantly, the place became chaotic. Above the void, a void volcano appeared. Turbid yellow air gushed out from it and dyed the entire world yellow. Is that the primordial volcano? It's finally here. Chu Yang raised his head and looked at the sky. He muttered to himself, the primordial chi better not disappoint me. He had waited for a long time and put in a lot of effort. Swoosh. Chapter 1741. Rumble. Within the starting ground, the shaking of the heavens and earth became even more frequent. Loud noises reverberated through every corner of the starting ground. Endless echoes stacked together, causing the starting ground to be like a giant bell. Loud rumbling noises constantly rang out. The Genesis volcano, the place where the Genesis chi was about to erupt, was densely packed with all kinds of creatures. Regardless of whether they were from the outside of the starting ground or the primitive creatures of the starting ground, they all gathered here at this moment, waiting for the Genesis chi to erupt. To be exact, the Genesis chi had already begun to erupt, but it was mixed with endless turbidity and drowned by countless impurities. It was like digging a well. When the water rushed out of the well, it was all turbid water. The turbid water couldn't be drunk, and the Genesis chi mixed with countless impurities couldn't be absorbed. It was no different from waste gas. They had to wait for the two to settle and separate. Chu Yang was waiting. The child of Genesis and the child of Destiny were also waiting. At this moment, their most important task was to obtain the Genesis chi. It didn't take long, and the separation between the Genesis chi and the impurities was extremely fast. At the same time, the eruption of the Genesis chi was even more intense. At this moment, the Genesis chi that was erupting was almost free of impurities. Below the Genesis volcano, a pyramid with a total of 28 levels was quickly formed. The lower 18 levels were as black as ink. The lower half of the 19th level was turbid, and the upper half was clear. The last 9 levels weren't turbid at all. They were all clear and translucent, and the higher they went, the more so it was. I heard that the Genesis chi can evolve heaven and earth. This pyramid is a symbol. The lower 18 levels represent the 18 levels of hell. The 19th level represents the human world, representing the mortal world. Therefore, the upper half is clear and the lower half is turbid. According to this, the upper 9 levels represent the 9 heavens. That's right. The upper 9 levels represent the 9 heavens and the 9 heavens. Only the prodigies can rush up to the 9th level to obtain the purest and higher quality Genesis chi. According to what I heard, since the starting ground was discovered and opened until now, no one has been able to rush up to the 9th level. The 6th level is the limit, and the most shocking record is the 7th level. Many people were discussing this. Unconsciously, people began to discuss the supreme prodigies who had entered the starting ground this time. Do you guys think any of those heaven's prides will be able to make it to the 7th floor this time? The son of Tai Chu should be able to do it. I heard that he is a rare genius of the Tai Chu clan that appears once in 1,000 years. The son of destiny carries the mandate of heaven. Logically speaking, he should be able to ascend to the 9th level of the 9-layered heaven. For example, if the heavenly Tao were the imperial court, he would naturally have the opportunity to visit the emperor. That's the logic, but it's not the first time the Tianming clan has entered the starting ground. However, they can't even reach the 6th heavenly palace, let alone the 7th heavenly palace. Not to mention the Tianming tribe, even as the host, the Taichu tribe has never been able to step foot on the 7th level. Those who can reach the 7th floor are all people of mysterious origins. Until now, no one knows the background of those people. They must be extremely shocking, even more shocking than the Tianming clan and the Taichu clan. At this point, everyone suddenly fell silent. If the Tianming tribe and the Taichu tribe were already in such a difficult situation, there was no need to mention them. They could only sigh and lament. Sigh, the heavens are really biased. We were both born as humans, but why is the difference so big? Chapter 1742. When it came to Chu Yang, the atmosphere quickly became very lively. Many people expressed their own opinions. Maybe it's possible. So many heaven's prides joined forces but couldn't do anything. In the end, they all became white stripes in the waves. So, I conclude that Chu Wudi can definitely create history in the starting ground. That's right. This Chu Wudi is the same as those who could reach the 7th floor. His origin is also unknown and very mysterious. Maybe his background is so shocking that it can even scare people to death. If he didn't have a background, how could he treat those heaven's prides as if they were nothing? He even humiliated them and turned them into white stripes in the waves. I'm looking forward to him creating history again and creating a new miracle. Suddenly, an earth-shattering scream rang out, causing the surroundings to fall silent. By the time everyone looked over, someone had already rushed in without them noticing. However, when this person entered the 19th floor, the floor that represented the mortal world, he immediately fell down uncontrollably. As if he was drowning, he disappeared in an instant. No one knew the specific situation. After a long time, this person still didn't make any sound, as if he had drowned in the water. The starting chi was a supreme divine object, but those turbid things were supreme harmful things. They could corrupt the body, soul, and so on. In the end, it would directly corrupt people and completely destroy their intelligence. In the end, the body would also be decomposed and turned into filth. Hiss, gasps could be heard from the audience. Although the floor that represented the human world represented the human world, not everyone could enter it. Everyone, you have to be careful. Once you enter, if you can't withstand the pressure of the starting chi, you will definitely sink and die. It's very dangerous. Everyone, you have to be careful. Someone reminded loudly. Whoosh, whoosh. Who would care about that? Countless people had already moved and crazily rushed into the 19th floor that represented the mortal world. In an instant, screams continuously sounded and were quickly drowned out. I blocked it, ha ha! I blocked it too! The pressure of the starting chi is really terrifying. I feel as if I'm carrying a huge mountain. There were miserable screams, but there were also sounds of excitement and joy. Different people had different fates. Some were crying, some were laughing, and others were crying. Chu Yang looked at this scene and sighed in his heart. It's really natural selection, survival of the fittest. Such logic was even more vividly displayed at this moment. It appeared so cold and merciless. Once he failed, he would immediately die. If the heavens have feelings, the heavens will also age, he. He could not help but laugh mockingly. He did not know what he was laughing at, perhaps he was laughing at himself. When had he ever been afraid of fighting for his life against the heavens? The Scion of Light has successfully entered the 5th floor of the 9-layered celestial palace. It seems that he is still at ease, and is already attempting to enter the 6th floor. Huo Wushuang, Feng Xinglei and the others have also entered the 5th floor. However, compared to the Scion of Light, they seem to be having a harder time. The underworld child is trying to enter the 6th level of the celestial palace. Oh my God, are they all so astonishing? In an instant, all the geniuses moved. Chu Yang's ears were filled with the exclamations of the people, and his eyes could not help but flicker. He saw that the Scion of Light and the others were gritting their teeth, as if they were fighting against some mighty force. Obviously, the pressure was extremely great. At the same time, he also found that each of their divinities were hanging above their heads to resist some kind of great pressure. Bang, 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 rumble. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.